What are you doing here?
I live here.
Well, what'd you do that for?
Because I do. I'm only home because someone blew up my job.
Must have got the wrong signal. You're not plastic, are you? No. Bonehead. Bye then.
You inside right now.
Who is it?
It's about last night. It's part of the inquiry. Give us 10 minutes.
She deserves compensation.
Oh, we're talking millions.
I'm in my dressing gown.
Yes, you are.
There's a strange man in my bedroom
Yes, there is.
where anything could happen.
No.
Hello and welcome to Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast with me, Matthew, and as always, I am joined with...
Hello, it's Scott, and it's the 20th anniversary of Rose. Can you believe it? It's insane.
It sure was a few weeks ago. And, I mean, it's, you know, this year is the 20th anniversary, really, of Rose, and it's just past the actual anniversary date, which was the 27th, isn't it?
No, the 26th.
Of March.
It's
26th of March.
tonight as we're
Literally
recording
today
it. Yeah.
that we're recording it. Yeah. And we're revisiting Rose. This is an episode we covered way back when on the podcast when we were just starting out and trying to figure out the show. And I think it was before we even had cameras on the podcast.
It was episode 3 that we did, so insanely long time ago. God help
that
us.
was like
nearly
pandemic
4
era.
years
that was
ago.
During the pandemic. During the pandemic we would have done that. Isn't that insane?
We uploaded this episode on June 4th, 2021. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, a completely different world. A completely different world, 2021, compared to where we are right now in 2025. And a pretty fun time. I remember really enjoying Rose when we last visited it. Now we're revisiting it. And I, shocker, really enjoyed Rose again. I think it's a really, really strong pilot episode for a series. I think it's fucking outstanding.
Oh my god. It is among one of the best, I gotta say. It's like almost out there for like Twin Peaks kind of level. I would say it's on like an A tier rather than the S tier where Twin Peaks is, but it's still really fucking good.
It is very good. It is very, very good. And as you said, it first aired on March 26th, 2005, which was a Saturday. And as of today, 20 years ago. Sorry, 20 years ago exactly. And it was goddamn insane that it was that long ago. And let's take a look at what the world was like on that day. President George W. Bush had begun his second term after winning his re-election in November of 2004. Tony Blair was also in his second term, about to go for a general election in just over a month later, in May 5th, where he would win a third term as Prime Minister and a historic third term for Labour. Will we see Labour win even a second term come 2030? Who knows? There were some big ol' events that happened on this day. Just kidding. The biggest event on this day was Doctor Who coming back to TV after being off air since 1989, if you don't count the 1996 TV movie, but we do count the TV movie. It's canon and it's great. So since 1996. But if you weren't watching Doctor Who, and you had decided instead to take yourself to the cinema, and you were living in America, I have the UK and America, but we'll start with America. What would you have gone to see?
I'll definitely need some kind of hint. 2005. Robots
Yes.
was out around this time. I'm going to guess
Robots
Robots.
was the week before.
Yeah, because it just celebrated its 20th anniversary. That's why I know.
Yeah. It's a good film.
I
Robots
need to go
holds up
back to it. I
superbly
really
well.
need to go back to it. It's been a long time. I only really remember the video game, which is a classic. But
Oh yeah, I've never played the game.
what came out the week after Robots? No fucking
It's
idea.
completely different. It's completely different. I have a couple clues for you. It is a sequel to a movie that is an adaptation of a Japanese film.
Could it be? Did they make a Ring 2? No.
They did.
Oh my
and
God.
It was.
Why is that the only thing I can think of when you say Japanese movie?
Yeah. Well, that's the only. They've only made one, and it was The Ring. So, The Ring 2 is a 2005 supernatural horror film and a sequel to the 2002 film The Ring, which was a remake of a 1998 Japanese film called Ring. So the Hideo Nakata was a director of the original Ring film, directed this film in place of Gore Verbinski. And they originally had a director called Nomura who was attached, but he left due to creative differences. The film follows some people that find a videotape and then get spooky and killed or whatever. It's got a 21% on Rotten Tomatoes with the critical consensus that says Ring 2 serves up horror cliches and not even Hideo Nakata, the director of the film from which this one is based, can save Ring 2 from a dull screenplay full of absurdities. Roger Ebert considered it better than the first film, saying, "The charm of The Ring 2, while limited, is real enough. It is based on the film's ability to make absolutely no sense, while nevertheless generating a real enough feeling of tension and a good deal of the time." So it was apparently very dumb. I've never seen The Ring 2. I've never seen The Ring 1. I've not even seen the Japanese Ring. I own it on DVD.
I've only seen the American remake probably like 15 years ago, so I don't remember a single thing about it.
It sounds really good. However, in the UK, we wouldn't get The Ring 2 for another week or so. So what are people seeing instead?
Week after Robots, I do not remember
Yep,
anything.
Robots is still a week after.
Any hints? Can I get a hint?
It involves a doctor encapsulating this Doctor Who theme. It's a rom-com
It's a rom-com starring
with a doctor.
Is it an obvious one, or is it a obscure one?
It's a pretty big film. It's got a pretty big star attached. It's got he was most famous at the Oscars a couple years ago.
Will Smith? Is it?
Yep.
Is it? Oh, this is a movie I've not seen. I've not seen most of his like rom-commy kind of movies. Is it? It's Hitch. Is it Hitch?
It is Hitch.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done. It is indeed Hitch. Which, for whatever reason, doesn't have a Wikipedia
Nice.
link that I can access. Hang on. Never mind, I got one. It wasn't attached on the breakdown of top box office number ones. It's a dead link.
See, I
But
always
I've had to pull it up.
always get Hitch and Hancock confused because I keep on thinking Hancock is called Hitchcock. So I keep on thinking Hitch is Hancock for that reason.
You know, when I read it was Hitch, I also thought Hancock. For when
We're
I
making
saw
a
it. Hancock's
sequel
probably,
to Hancock now.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
We'll see how that goes.
I think the first Hancock film is very good until the third act, when
yeah.
it becomes bad and a different film.
Yeah, it's the same thing that happened to I Am Legend. I Am Legend just fell off the rails at the third act as well. Mm-hmm. Like,
yeah.
Same with
but
iRobot. Like, oh, there's so many bad Will
Yeah.
Smith movies. I'm sorry. I know you like iRobot.
I like iRobot. I don't think it's amazing per se, but it's a fun little like cyberpunk sort of crime drama. I like the vibes that it gives. You know, it's a good aesthetic and a cool world. But anyway, Hitch got a 68% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is the only website that matters in terms of reviews, and it says, despite Hitch's predictability, Will Smith and Kevin James win praise for their solid, warm-hearted performances. I have not. No, I have seen Hitch, actually, and it's, I think, pretty forgettable. Roger Ebert said, the premise is intriguing, and for a time it seems that the date doctor, that's why I said doctor related, may indeed know things about women that most men in the movies are not allowed to know. But the third act goes on autopilot just when the doctor should be in. So it seems like it's every Will Smith film from the 2000s, where the third act just kind of gives up. But hey yo, that is basically everything I've got on this day. Doctor Who came back into the spotlight. It came back in and ushered in basically a new golden age of Doctor Who. I don't think we're ever going to see Doctor Who as popular as it was. Maybe crossed. In 20 years, maybe in 10, 20 years again. But it was crazy. It was everywhere, you know?
Oh my god, it really was. Like, I had the fucking card game as a kid, you know, the collectible card game, Battles in Time, like, toy adverts fucking everywhere. I didn't really have any of the toys, but just the marketing was insane for this fucking show. Were you
Everybody
a day one?
Watched it.
Were you a day one viewer?
I was a day one viewer. This came out basically on my 5th birthday. It was like the couple days before I turned 5, Doctor Who came back. And I barely remember a time where I wasn't watching Doctor Who. You know, for most of my life, I have had Doctor Who on screen. But Rose was indeed the first episode I watched. And I hated Doctor Who. Terrible show.
I wish I could say the same. I was quite late to the game. I only watched it from episode 5, World War III, and I was immediately hooked by the recap of the CGI Slovene chasing Rose, Billy Piper, and Harriet Jones in 10 Downing Street. That's the moment I became hooked to Doctor Who, with that recap. So I was quite late, but I managed to watch the first 3 episodes on DVD around about summer 2005. So I wasn't too behind. I think I missed one episode for a while.
Isn't it crazy that you'd have to watch it on DVD and you couldn't just like pull up iPlayer and instantly watch and catch up?
Yeah, 2 years away from iPlayer, insane times.
That is crazy.
Back in the day, you had to record it on videotape. Wow.
Yeah. Did Skyboxes even have recording back then? I think so.
I'm gonna look this up. Maybe Sky Plus first.
Yeah.
Release. Launched in September 2001. What a great time to launch your new service.
Well, you can record the news and play it back in slow motion if something interesting happens, you know?
But yeah, of course, the Doctor Who episode that aired before Rose was, of course, the TV movie in 1996, May 1996. Almost 9 years before this. Insane length of time between episodes there. In the UK, the TV movie, of course, did very well with 9 million viewers. It was the 15th programme for the week, but in the USA, it only did 8.3 million views, and it was the 75th programme of the week. So the Americans definitely weren't interested in Doctor Who. Of course, we covered the movie before, so it's just a quick recap of how the movie failed. The movie was made by Universal and broadcast on Fox. Fox was not interested in airing more episodes because of the ratings. Universal held on to the rights for a show until the end of 1997, but they weren't able to find a new broadcaster, and the BBC didn't have the resources at the time to do it without another production company, so it was just sat on the back bench for a long while. So a little recap of what the BBC kind of looked like in 1996. the BBC was basically restructuring very heavily around this time. Charles Denton was the head of drama at the BBC between 1993 and 1996, and he left because it had become an Orwellian nightmare, basically. Nobody wanted to be the head of drama after this guy left for a whole year. The rumours were that they had approached every TV drama executive in Britain, and none of them wanted the position because people basically thought the BBC had been taken over by people who cared more about the rules rather than creativity. So, like, the BBC was in quite a difficult time. The drama department became really disorganised. For example, at one point, 2 different departments were developing their own separate Jane Eyre project. There was no communication between anyone around this time. It took them over a year to find a replacement for the head of drama, and the new guy said that he inherited a mess with employees who were either demoralised by the higher-ups or they just did not care for the job. Throughout the period, Doctor Who fans were keeping tabs on all the changes within the BBC, trying to track who would be an ally for a show. Like, oh, this guy is a fan. Maybe he could bring it back, you know? Like this was obviously the really early days of, like, the internet, and Doctor Who fans are crazy now. Doctor Who fans sound crazy then.
Doctor Who fans are crazy, full stop. That's where that sentence ends. It doesn't matter the time period. You know, since the invention of Doctor Who, there have been crazy Doctor Who fans. It does something to your brain.
Yes. So, 1 year after the TV movie, a lady named Karen McCoy phoned Doctor Who magazine to claim that she was an executive producer for an independent American production studio. She told the Doctor Who magazine that the company she worked with were trying to get the rights to make Doctor Who, and they had already storylined 2 seasons of ideas, 44 episodes in total. She claimed they had previously almost got the rights to do an animated show in the 1980s, and they were currently trying to get a company to create CGI sets for the show like they used in Babylon 5, and she said that they were working with a UK production company, and Doctor Who magazine had contact with her for months, but quickly realised that the company she named was untraceable. So she then phoned back a few months later. She then claimed that she became an executive producer of a new company for Default Films, which was part of a company called Area 9. She said Paul McGann told her that he had no interest in returning to the role, so her new pitch was to create an animated show and continue the 8th Doctor with a new voice actor. Doctor Who magazine contacted Area 9 and were told that Karen McCoy was not an employee. She was just a freelancer who was allowed access to their computers after hours. Area 9 had nothing to do with a business called Default Films, nor did they have anything to do with Doctor Who. So she lied. Again, crazy Doctor Who fans.
Hell yeah. More power to her. Absolute Chad move.
Our next news of a revival was in July of 1997 when the BBC announced they had plans to do a 4-part K9 series. But it went nowhere. We briefly talked about this in our really good K9, Australian K9 podcast we did. That's a different K9.
I know. The Australian K9 is terrible. But, I mean, it had some fun moments in it, and it works more if you think about it. As we discussed in that episode, as taking part in an alternate universe, particularly the universe where the Cybermen are in. Just because it's like a surreal kind of weird Earth, but it's got nothing on K9 and Company, which is the superior K9 show.
We need to go back to Australian K9. There's 24 episodes we just have not covered yet. So, in December of 1997, the month I was born, there were rumours that the BBC and the Sci-Fi Channel in America were working on a series with Eric Idle or Richard O'Brien as the Doctor. Eric Idle, of course, from Monty Python. Richard O'Brien, of course, from Rocky Horror Picture Show. The news was obviously false, but the channel would later air the show in America in the Russell T Davies era. So 1 year after that, this is when BBC Films get involved. In May 1998, David Thompson, who was the BBC's head of film, announced at Cannes Film Festival that they were planning on making a Doctor Who feature film for cinemas. BBC Film at this time had some indie hits in their hands with some Academy Award nominations and wanted to make a Hollywood-style blockbuster, but Thompson later admitted that he kind of just said they were making a Doctor Who film to get attention from the press. Like, he really wanted to do it, but it was, like, nowhere near ready, and there was no studios involved or anything like that. He just said it to get attention. And
So far, it's just people being like, I'm making Doctor Who.
Yes.
And not actually doing that.
I mean, I can't remember if we did it. I think it was when we did the Dimensions in Time. I told the story of this guy who claimed he was cast as the 8th Doctor and was doing an American production, and we already shot like 12 episodes, and like the amount of lies that went around before the early days of the internet is insane. But the British tabloids around this time went absolutely mental. The Sun said the Doctor could be played by a woman. I mean, of course, like 20 years later, they have a big problem with the Doctor being played by a woman, you know?
Of course.
Like, you start the rumour of a Doctor having a sex change. I mean, you have a big problem with it like 30 years later. Make up your fucking mind.
The Sun doesn't have morals. They just want you to buy their bad paper.
The Daily Mail suggested Daniela Nardini could be the Doctor. She was a Scottish actress known for the BBC show This Life, and they also suggested Helen Baxendale, who played Ross's fiancée Emily on Friends. The famous episode, of course, where Ross says Rachel's name at the wedding.
Yes.
That could have been the Doctor, according to the Daily Mail.
Sure, okay. I mean, she has an English accent. I think I've only seen her in Friends. You know.
Yeah, I don't know anything else she's been in. A few months later, Miramax were attached to the project, founded by Bob and Harvey Weinstein. And of course, Miramax was owned by Disney at this time. Imagine Disney getting the rights to Doctor Who. How insane that would be.
Crazy. What a crazy world that would be.
Imagine watching a Doctor Who movie and in the end it said produced by Harvey Weinstein.
God.
Michael Sheard was apparently approached around this time, and he had appeared in multiple Doctor Who stories like Remembrance of Mars and Remembrance of the Daleks. He had also been in Grange Hill in the 80s as Mr. Bronson, and he had played Adolf Hitler 5 times in things like The Tomorrow People and Indiana Jones. So we've covered this guy before. Decent enough actor. He maybe could have been the Doctor.
Loves playing Hitler. Loves playing Hitler.
In 1999, we get news that eventually Paul Anderson was attached to direct the film, and this is the director of Mortal Kombat and Event Horizon.
Okay. So, Event Horizon, pretty good. The first Mortal Kombat film, pretty good, mostly because it has one really fucking good song. Everything else in that film sucks. But I think Event Horizon's definitely his best film. It's not amazing, but it's worth a watch.
I've not seen any of them. Is Event Horizon the one with... I get confused because there's another movie that came out exactly the same time with a similar premise. Which one's which?
Event Horizon is the one with the guy from The Matrix and the guy from Stargate in it. It's they travel through like a wormhole, and then inside the wormhole is hell.
Oh, nice.
And it's cool. It's a very good film. It's worth a watch. I don't know another film that's like it that came out around the same time. So
maybe I'm getting confused. But Paul Anderson eventually wrote an outline featuring the Master, and the names in the run-in for the Doctor around this time was Denzel Washington, Lawrence Fishburne, and Anthony Hopkins. Which, interesting choices. Of course, Lawrence Fishburne, because it's 1999, he was just in the fucking Matrix. I imagine that's where they were thinking there.
Lawrence Fishburne, he was the guy in Event Horizon.
Oh, okay.
Yes. He's in Event Horizon. And
Okay.
Sam Neill he's the main lead.
The guy from Jurassic Park. Alan.
Jurassic Park,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
There was word that the film would start shooting in 2000 with a $14 million budget, with hopes of turning it into a long-running film franchise, and they even expected that the movie could help set up a Hollywood-style film studio in the UK. But eventually Paul Anderson leaves the project. In September 1999, Artisan Entertainment was now a potential buyer. They made the Blair Witch Project, but 6 weeks after the report, they fell through the plans. So, and then in early 2000, in February, Miramax withdrew from the film project, and now nobody was attached to the film. But in May, Mutual Film Company was now interested. They were one of the companies behind Saving Private Ryan from the previous year, which I believe, did it win Best Picture? I don't know.
It probably got nominated for it. It feels like it.
Or as Shaving Ryan's Private, as my psychology teacher called it all the time for some reason.
So it got Best Director, Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing, Best Sound Mixing, Best Sound Editing. It was nominated for Best Picture, but didn't win. Got nominated for Best Actor, nominated for Best Original Score, nominated for Best Original Screenplay, Best Makeup, and Best Production. It was also nominated for. It did okay.
But yeah, that's a decent film company to be behind the Doctor Who movie, and they really wanted a serious movie that went back to the tone of the William Hartnell era, and they wound up actually getting a writer on board, Ed Solomon, who wrote the Bill and Ted movies and Men in Black.
Nice.
That would be a good writer to be attached to his project. Those are decent movies.
Yeah. Those are not only decent movies; those are movies that are both sci-fi and or time travel. Mm-hmm. You know, they fit in the silly genre of Doctor Who.
Ed Solomon had good relations with Universal Studios, so he was actually able to get some meetings with them, which was funny because the TV movie was made at Universal, obviously the TV department of Universal, but we're back at Universal anyway. And Ed quickly pitched a story that opens up with a young couple, 17 years old, and they're in a romantic location and they're madly in love with each other, but it becomes clear that their parents don't approve of the relationship. Suddenly, a strange man comes up to them and says it's important for them to get together because it'll affect the future of the world. What movie does this sound like to you? Another famous Universal movie. With time travel.
They get together. Back to the Future?
Yes, yeah, he was pitching the ending of Back to the Future to them. Of course, Universal would be interested in this movie because he was pitching Back to the Future to them.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know if that would be the final version of the movie or if it's just an elevator pitch, but
sure, yeah,
it apparently worked. Universal was really interested in this. Nothing else was considered about the story other than the Doctor should be played by Anthony Hopkins. Universal liked the idea, but they really wanted merchandising rights. We really want Universal Studios, the theme park, to, like a Doctor Who ride. Let's do a Doctor Who ride. Let's sell merchandise at the stores. But the BBC would never fucking give that up, so Universal basically said bye-bye. And then ultimately the film obviously never went anywhere, the meetings didn't really continue, and Ed Solomon didn't write a script, so the movie just died in 2001, like some other people.
Oh my god. Terrible.
Other rumours for a Doctor Who movie. In 1999, there were rumours of a 2.5 million animated movie starring Tom Baker and Louise Jameson being in the works. In 2000, there were rumours of a Dalek movie from the Sunday Times. They said there were sequel plans. In 2002, gossip website Pop Bitch claimed that Timothy Spall was going to be the Doctor in a TV movie for the show's 40th anniversary. And obviously that was fake. You really trust Pop Bitch to be reliable with this kind of information.
If you can't trust Pop Bitch, who can you trust?
But back to the TV world, because those are all movies. The other times the show was almost brought back. Terry Nation, the creator of the Daleks, Jerry Davis, the co-creator of the Cybermen, and Verity Lambert, the very first producer of Doctor Who. They were all interested in reviving the show, but they never really went anywhere. A person who did go somewhere with this pitch is Dan Friedman. He considered bringing back the show, and he's the guy who did the Death Comes to Time webcast, which received lukewarm response. In our Scream of the Shalka episode, we talked about the previous online animations that the BBC did, and this was a very limited webcast where it's just pictures basically moving around on the screen with voice acting from Sylvester McCoy, Colin Baker, etc. not the best depiction of early Flash, but it received lukewarm response. I imagine people didn't really like it at the time either, but we'll cover it someday, I guess, maybe. So in 2002, Dan Friedman wound up spending some time in the Buffy writer's room, and he asked if anyone there was interested in helping him revive Doctor Who. And David Fury, who wrote for and produced Buffy, said that Friedman wanted to do Doctor Who in the American model with 22 episodes a year and a writer's room, which would have been a fucking lot of episodes to do.
That is a lot of episodes to do, and I don't know how well it would have turned out.
Yeah,
probably more of a mid show. You know?
From what I get from this Dan Friedman guy is he really didn't understand how television was made, really. Like 22 episodes a year on the, it doesn't sound like it's feasible, especially with like changing sets and changing actors every week. No.
I mean, like they could do it like Stargate, you know? Like Stargate is about 22 episodes per season, and they have like various different sets around the place, but their big thing is a lot of the time you're just going to like the woods.
Yeah.
Like you go there, you're in a desert planet, you're in a woodland,
Stargate is a show I've always considered picking up. It's just a lot of seasons. It's too much, man.
Yes. It's good. It's a good time. It's a good show. It's a pretty good show.
Dan Friedman wanted the show to air at 6 p.m. on weekdays on BBC Two, which might sound strange, but at the time it's where shows like Buffy, Star Trek, The New Adventures of Superman, and Farscape aired. So it fit around those shows fairly well, and I can understand where he's coming from. He wanted Stephen Fry to play the Doctor, and Dan said he wanted to avoid too many continuity references, but it sounded like it would still be a continuation of his show. So it's the ninth Doctor rather than the first Doctor. But reception of for Death Comes to Time was mixed, so the series just never went anywhere. Around this time, Mark Gatiss, Gareth Roberts, and Clayton Hickman, who was a Doctor Who magazine editor, also had a pitch for a series. And this pitch was purely put in place because Gatiss was horrified by Dan Friedman's pitch. Because Friedman didn't have any experience in TV, and it just sounded like an absolute nightmare, apparently. Clayton Hickman said the Friedman pitch was too convoluted, with too much mystical guff. So...
that's one thing that we don't want in Doctor Who. There's too much guff bugging up the works.
If you look at Rose, it's a fucking simple to follow episode.
Oh yeah.
And then you flash forward to like The Timeless Child, where the Master is inside the Matrix giving a big speech to the Doctor about blah blah blah.
Yeah. Yeah. You flash then even more forward to like Space Babies when the Doctor's just lore dumping at 1,000,000 miles an hour to you know?
Oh God, help us all. There's some contradiction because Friedman had said he wanted to avoid too much continuity references, but Clayton Hickman said that Friedman pitch was too continuity heavy. So I don't know what the fuck's going on here. There's a lot of contradiction here. But they were all basically worried that the show would be bad, and there was a chance the BBC would want it, so they wanted to build a better pitch to distract the BBC. And they thought the TV movie failed because the continuity was too confusing for new audiences. Like, you open up on the TV movie and it's, oh, my arch nemesis, the Master, is being placed in Scarrow where he's being exterminated by the Daleks. And it's like, I'm just a new viewer. What the fuck are you talking about? It's too confusing.
And then the Doctor dies and regenerates into a new Doctor. And you're like, what?
Like, insane way to open that show. So their idea was to open the series where the Doctor has total amnesia and the TARDIS is an antique shop and the Doctor is trying to figure out how to work the TARDIS. Which, not a bad premise. I don't like the amnesia storyline.
Yeah, I never like amnesia stuff. It can be tiresome. Yeah.
But the Doctor would be played by Derek Jacobi, which would be a good pick. Obviously, he played the Master later on.
The Master. Yeah.
The format would be closer to the classic series with 21 half-hour episodes, and each story spanning across 3 episodes. I don't know how you feel about that.
That's a lot of episodes.
I mean, it's technically less episodes than what we got in the end. 13:45 versus 21 half hours.
Yeah. It'd be like, what, 7 episodes really? If it's 3 parts for each story. It'd be an interesting way of doing it. It seems not modern. I don't really know any modern shows that do that sort of format. You know,
I believe Mark Gatiss was like, people still watch the half-hour serialized program. It's called soap opera, but you know, sci-fi isn't the same as a soap opera. I'm sorry. So they pitched it to the BBC, but really weren't given a yes or a no verdict, and they were pretty much ghosted by the BBC after that. The team then tried to work on another sci-fi series for the BBC called The Ministry of Time, which got as far as a recorded table read in 2005, but it just never got made. I'd love to know more about The Ministry of Time.
Sounds interesting. Good title.
They basically made it just in case the rights, they never got the rights to Doctor Who. It was like a Doctor Who rip-off show, but inspired by Doctor Who, if you know what I mean.
Sounds good. Sounds like it'd be good. I'd watch it.
There was another proposal from Matthew Graham, who went on to create Life. Yes, you. He went on to create Life on Mars and wrote the Doctor Who episodes Fear Her and The Rebel Flesh in Series 6. Not good episodes, I'm sorry.
I think they're not. They're okay. They're middle of the pack. Middle of the pack episodes.
But this was only an informal meeting, and Matthew Graham says his Doctor Who would have been darker with 2 or 3 parters, and he would have gone for an older Doctor than Christopher Eccleston. And he said there was also loose plans to do a Doctor Who reboot at the time at the BBC, where the Doctor was a human, and he made the TARDIS by himself in his garden, which was... It sounds like the Peter Cushing movies.
That's the Peter Cushing movie, yeah.
So the BBC were apparently considering something along these lines at the same time. Like, really bizarre, but obviously that never went anywhere, and thank God.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of that setup for the Doctor being a human dude. Like, the Peter Cushing movies are fun, but... very much their own thing. They don't need to be canon. That's not Doctor Who. Please.
So this is where we get to our main dude, Stephen Russell Davis. And I always forget his name is Stephen. We have 2 showrunners called Stephen, back to back. He was born in 1963, just like the Doctor Who itself, in Swansea, Wales. A fictional place. Growing up, his friends called him by his middle name, Russell, and then he added the T in the early 90s to avoid confusion with another writer, Russell Davis. So then he became Russell T. Davies, which it's a cool name. It's a cool name.
Yeah, Russell the Davies.
So his early work in 1985, his first job was on the BBC show Why Don't You, which was a children's television show. He worked in multiple roles, writing, producing, directing, editing. He really learned his craft in the children's department at the BBC. He also did on-screen presentation as a cartoonist storyteller. I don't know if you've ever seen these clips. It's him with a mullet, really awkward.
Incredible.
It's insane.
Yeah.
he also wrote a few episodes of Chucklevision, which I'd fucking love to do on
wow.
the show at some
Yeah.
point. That'd be a nice quick one to get on.
I haven't watched an episode of Chucklevision, I think, since I was maybe under 8 or under 7 years old.
I recently I've watched a couple of episodes of Chucklevision on YouTube just a few weeks ago, and then YouTube, like at the end of every video I've watched, YouTube would just autoplay another episode of Chucklevision. No matter what video I've watched, it could be like a video of a child confessing he murdered his parents. I mean, an episode of Chucklevision. Like, I don't understand.
Chucklevision.
But in the early 90s, Russell T Davies moved into children's drama, where he created Dark Season in 1991, starring a young Kate Winslet, which is a show we should cover at some point. It's a good show, my dude. In 1993, he moved to Carlton, ITV. Basically, ITV have different like branches. Carlton is one of them, is ITV London, basically, where he wrote more children's shows. He also, around this time, pitched to Carlton, because obviously the BBC was looking for a co-developer to make Doctor Who with, and he goes to his bosses at ITV and he's like, why don't we make Doctor Who for him? It'd be great. I mean, he got laughed out of the room. He was considered insane for suggesting that.
Yeah.
I bet you they were
Doctor Who.
kicking themselves like a decade later.
Oh my god. For sure, yeah. Yeah.
But in 1994, he went freelance. He wrote for Coronation Street. He wrote for Spring Hill, which is a supernatural soap opera, apparently, which sounds fascinating. In 1996, he gets his first Doctor Who credit, the novel Damaged Goods, which takes place in it's like an estate, much like the Powell estate in Rose. So some elements of Rose's keeps popping up here.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
In 1999, though, he created the TV show Queer as Folk, which is apparently originally called Queer as Fuck. I didn't know that. But
I always just thought it was a pun, like a play on Meet the Folkers, you know? Meet the Fockers.
I never got that.
Wow, really?
But, you know, this show obviously earned him a lot of attention. It even had a self-insert character by the name of Vince Tyler. Rose Tyler, same last name. His character was a Doctor Who fan, and there's multiple Doctor Who references in this show. Multiple clips of Doctor Who. I think there was even an episode where we just watched Pyramids of Mars.
Amazing.
And even K9 makes a cameo in this show. So we go back to the BBC in 1999, and the BBC is currently struggling with a show called Harbour Lights. And they reach out to Russell T Davies. Basically, the writer of Harbour Lights did a terrible job. They really need a new writer on board. Hey, we just read this script by a young guy called Russell T Davies. He wrote Queer as Folk. This is a really good script. We should get him on board to rewrite this show for us. And Russell T Davies was like, I don't give a single fuck about Harbour Lights, but I would love to do Doctor Who. And the BBC arranged a meeting in early 1998, apparently. Some sources say the meeting was a total disaster. An executive showed up drunk and resigned later that day. Others say the meeting went really well, but BBC Films, we just talked about them, BBC Films had already planned a Doctor Who movie, which blocked them from doing a TV show. Some argue this was for the best because the CGI wasn't quite ready for a Doctor Who return just yet, so Russell T Davies goes off to do other projects. But as early as 1999, like 5 years before the official announcement. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. God, that's insane.
around 1999 or 2000, rumors start spreading that Russell T Davies was writing a Doctor Who movie directed by Highlander's Russell Mulcahy, M-U-L-C-A-H-Y, Mulcahy.
Mulcahy.
Mullahy? I'll say Mullahy.
Mullahy.
This turned out to be a mix-up because Mullahy was directing Queer as Folk USA, so it was fake news, but still, his name was attached to Doctor Who. It was well known that he was wanting something to do with Doctor Who around this time. And, Russell T Davies heard nothing from the BBC. He assumed the Doctor Who revival was dead, so he just goes off to do other stuff. In autumn 2000, the BBC were having meetings on how they could refresh Saturday night's programmes for the BBC One, and they realised they haven't had a drama on air on Saturdays for quite a while, and Jane Tranter, who was the new... 2000. She was the controller of drama at the BBC at this time, and she suggested they should bring back Doctor Who. It already had a fan base that was heavily nostalgic for the show, and it would be a very big launch. To give you a little knowledge about Saturday night's television at this time, the television was doing really badly in the UK. Saturday nights are usually the time when people are watching TV the most, but
Yeah.
nobody was interested in Saturday night television anymore. It wasn't as bad as it is today, because nowadays nothing is on Saturday nights.
Maybe some game shows.
Yeah. They needed new shows, and for the next 3 years they've really focused on creating big shows like Strictly Come Dancing and Fame Academy, but eventually realised there was too many back-to-back competition shows or quiz shows. They needed some sort of drama in there, And ITV were also beating them with shows like Pop Idol doing really well, and they thought that, a drama for all the family would really help balance the Saturday night schedule. It's the only thing they could think of is, let's just bring back Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So Russell T Davies in 2001 came back for another meeting with the BBC. He had just come back from America after launching Queer as Folk USA. And during this meeting, he would say several interesting things. He would say the BBC series Walking with Dinosaurs, which featured CGI dinosaurs, was the perfect demonstration of what Doctor Who could look like in the 21st century. He also talked about wanting to tell the story from a more realistic, emotional place to attract a wider audience and to get rid of the poshness of classic Doctor Who, classic
the
Doctor
BBC
Who's
sort of English, yeah.
He considered the opening episode could have a new companion working as an office block cleaner where plastic computer terminals came to life and swallowed people. So this is 2001. He's already considering basically the Autons.
Yeah.
The big bad bosses would be twins who always held hands. The Doctor and the companion would escape the building on a window cleaner cradle. He would later do this in Partners in Crime when they escape from the...
Yeah.
He also thought the companion could have a comedic grandpa. He's basically thinking of Wilf, 7 years before Wilf. He even pitched a story on an idea of a deadly game of the weakest link, based on seeing posters of Anne Robinson in America, because at the time the Weakest Link USA was coming out, and he would be seen as 20-foot... 20-story high billboard posters of Anne Robinson, which sounds terrifying.
I used to watch The Weakest Link quite a bit, and that was always on TV in my house. It was a fun show. I
have fond memories of watching that and Countdown with my nana, so holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
Around this time, he also suggested Tom Baker could potentially come back to the role of a Doctor to really make a big splash in newspapers and stuff, but thank God they never went with bringing back an old Doctor. Imagine if they brought back an older Doctor.
God, that'd be so dumb. So dumb and bad. I can't imagine anything worse.
But Russell T Davies basically left this meeting with the impression that the BBC weren't really interested in bringing back Doctor Who, so he later went on to do his own stuff again. Eventually, Jane Tranter and Russell T Davies, Jane Tranter was the head of drama at this time, or the commissioner of drama on BBC One at this time. So they met in an event in October 2001, and Jane Tranter claimed she was heavily pregnant at the time, and she waddled across the room as fast as she could when she found out that Russell wanted to bring back the show. She was a big fan of Russell's work and was a big Doctor Who fan herself, so she was like, oh my god, we should bring back Doctor Who. But the series was put on delay yet again as Jane Tranter left for maternity leave soon after. So Russell T Davies went off and did his own stuff yet again. It's just a constant back and forth. Like, being in this industry sounds difficult.
Oh my god, trying to get anything made seems almost impossible. How does anybody do anything?
I know. Russell T Davies went on to create a show called Bob and Rose for ITV, which attracted the attention of another department at the BBC, the head of drama serials, which is basically like their mini-series department. And this dude asked Russell to meet with him in early 2002, and Russell said, I only want to fucking do Doctor Who. Give me Doctor Who. So another meeting happened and Russell pitched the same ideas again, but he was told that the BBC needed to check if he actually had the rights to Doctor Who because of the situation with BBC Films. So Russell was basically ghosted by the BBC yet again. Like, no response from the BBC yet again. So Russell decided to keep himself busy with his new series for ITV, The Second Coming, which starred Christopher Eccelstone as a man who claims he is the son of God, which is a show I always want to watch, but I can never find it anywhere. It's not on ITVX. I imagine it's just on DVD, which...
You're gonna find a DVD of it, like on eBay or something, yeah.
Around this time, whenever Doctor Who was mentioned by people at the BBC publicly, it was always a case of them basically saying, we would fucking love to do it, but we just don't have the rights to it. And the BBC had no idea what was actually going on with the rights. In 1999, they thought the rights were still with Universal because of a TV movie, but they actually lost, Universal lost the rights in 1997.
Yeah.
Like, the BBC just have no fucking idea of what's going on with this show. In the early 2000s, they thought the rights were still tied up with BBC Films or BBC Worldwide, and they didn't want to deal with lawyers and all the paperwork to try and get the rights back, so we never actually just checked. We never phoned up anybody. We were like,
we really want to make this show, but not that much. We don't want to actually do any steps to making it happen.
But around 2003, they actually looked around and realised there were literally nothing stopping them from bringing back the show. The only rights issues were because of things like the Daleks unit and the Brigadier, which you don't need to use because it's not important to the show. You could make Doctor Who without them. And because the BBC were so disorganised, there was no communication between the different branches. In August 2003, the BBC published an article on their website saying there were no rights issues and they could make a TV series at any time. But apparently the controller of BBC One at the time, 4 days later, after this article was published, she said, in public, we don't know about the rights to Doctor Who. We'll never get the rights to Doctor Who. 4 days after the BBC had just said, we have full rights to the show.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
And, during this entire time, Doctor Who fans were just constantly phoning up the BBC, emailing them, saying, what the fuck is actually going on with this show? Like, you're so disorganized. What the hell is going on? So yeah, in around August 2003, Russell T Davies finally signs the contract to make Doctor Who again, 5 years after he first expressed interest in making the show. Jane Tranter at this time suggested Judi Dench could play the Doctor, so we're still talking about female doctors. It shows you that, nobody cared about female doctors until this suddenly it became woke.
Yeah, it's brain rot infecting people with stuff that they don't actually care about, making them think they do.
Like, who the fuck cares? It's so funny.
It's literally, I think as long as I've watched Doctor Who, every single time there was a rumor of the next Doctor, it was maybe it's going to be a woman. You know, especially when David Tennant was going to regenerate into. I remember those rumors were everywhere. I mean, the next Doctor's going to be a woman.
Yeah.
When Matt Smith was going to regenerate, the next Doctor's going to be a woman. You know, it was all over the goddamn place. It was an inevitability. Everybody wanted it to happen. You know, we've even covered stories back in Classic Who when they were talking about classic Doctors regenerating. That people were like, maybe it's going to be a woman.
Like, I think there's a quote from Patrick Troughton in the 80s who says, yeah, Doctor could be played by a woman. I don't see why not, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think the only person who had negative opinions of a Doctor being played by a woman was Peter Davidson, and he said something like, oh, boys are losing their role model because the woman is playing the Doctor for a few years. Who the fuck cares?
That's what made everybody do the crime again, remember?
Yeah, of course,
All that
yeah, of
crime
course.
happened.
So in this story, we meet Julie Gardner. Of course, she would later go on to make Bad Wolf Studios. She is the executive producer of Doctor Who now, and in 2005. She first started her career in 1994 as a producer secretary on Our Friends in the North, which starred Christopher Eccleston. Ever heard of him? She worked up the ranks in the industry and became a producer, working on a modern-day retelling of Othello for ITV, which co-starred Christopher Eccleston. And then she found herself working as a producer on the TV series Casanova, written by Russell T Davies and starring David Tennant. Ever heard of him? During this time on Casanova, this is around 2003, 2002, somewhere along these lines. And during this time, she and Russell T Davies bonded over their love for Buffy, Angel, and Smallville. And Davies would say he thought that Britain should really make shows like that, in that kind of format. And then in the summer of 2003, Julie Gardner had become the head of drama of BBC Wales, and in her first meeting with Jane Tranter, she was asked if she would like to take on Doctor Who, and it made like total sense for her to say yes, because Davies was Welsh. Davies didn't want to work in-house for a BBC. Davies had a really good relationship with Julie Gardner, and BBC Wales really needed a big show, and you can't get much bigger than Doctor Who at the time. And, you know, it also helped the industries in Wales because most of the crew had to be from Wales. So that's a lot of jobs that gets created in Wales.
I wish it was Scotland.
So do I. That'd be ace. If Doctor Who was made in Scotland, like...
Oh my god, it'd be so good. Stupid Wales, who needs them?
I know. The initial budget for the show at this time wound up being $500,000, which just wasn't enough, and the show didn't have full funding while they were filming the series, which is why they kept on reusing sets like Satellite 5, and why the Daleks and Slovene kept on popping up in like 3 episodes each. BBC Worldwide eventually helped to finance the revival. The BBC only expected around 6, maybe 8 or 10 episodes of a show a year, but Russell pushed. Apparently Russell really pushed to get the full 13 episodes, which, yikes, sounds like a lot of work.
A lot. Yeah.
Which nowadays, you know, like 8 episodes is a lot of work.
One episode seems to be an impossible amount of work.
13 episodes was more attractive to overseas buyers, and it really made a statement that BBC Wales was serious about making dramas. The BBC expected the show to be made up of all 2-parters, but Davies pointed out that this isn't how Americans made TV, mostly singles. I think the mix of single episodes and 2-parters were perfect for the first 5 or 6 seasons. Like, it really worked to have 6 episodes of 2-parters and 7 single episodes. Like, that's the best format for Doctor Who. Like, I don't like it when it's 6 single episodes and just 1 2-parter.
Yeah, or just 2-parters, like, and 1 single episode, like that Capaldi second series. Yeah.
The revival was announced on September 24th, 2003, but work didn't start on the show till 2004. And now we talk about casting. When the show was announced, the press started throwing out rumours that magician Paul Daniels or presenter Carol Vorderman from Countdown would be the Doctor and companion. which just shows you how low Doctor Who was in the view of British public people. Like nobody liked Doctor Who. It was a joke. Julie and Russell were keen on Christopher Eccleston, but had a feeling he wouldn't be interested in the show, so we never bothered trying to contact him. And then suddenly Christopher Eccleston saw the newspaper headline of Russell T Davies making Doctor Who, and he's like, oh shit, maybe there's something to this. Maybe I could do Doctor Who. And then Eccleston calls up Russell T Davies and said, I would love to be considered. He said that he loved working with Davies on The Second Coming, and he thought he was an excellent writer and that he was interested in doing something like Doctor Who. It must be good, And of course, his opinion
flash
of
cut
Russell T.
to
Davies.
flash cut to him saying, "Fire Russell T Davies."
Fire Julie Gardner. It's insane. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit tonight as well. Chris was apparently previously on the shortlist to be the 8th Doctor as well, which is news to me. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
For Rose, Georgia Moffat auditioned for Rose. Of course, she's now known as Georgia Tennant because she is married to David Tennant, the daughter of the 5th Doctor. So she very nearly became Rose as well, which would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Small industry.
It really is. There's like 6 working actors.
Billy Piper was apparently the first person to audition for Rose, but the audition process took longer for Rose compared to the Doctor. They saw about 40 women in 3 days, but everybody, all the casting directors kept on coming back to Billy Piper. 5 girls did a chemistry test with Eccleston, but Piper had the most chemistry with Christopher Eccleston, and they are fucking flawless together. I'm so excited for this Big Finish series we're about to do.
Yeah.
I really hope they still have the magic. They probably do.
Yeah, I hope it's good. I'm sure it'll be good. They're fun together. They're really enjoyable together. It's a little bit creepy. There's a little bit of a creepiness to it.
Yeah.
But they are great together. It's a fantastic pairing.
Yeah. I think they are definitely based off of Angel and Buffy from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I think Rose is definitely inspired by Buffy because it's a blonde girl who's typically you'd imagine the teenager to be scared of these kind of things, but at the end of the day, Rose and
she
Buffy
takes them front on, fights them. Yeah.
And then also the Doctor, the immortal loner who just wanders around. That's Angel as well.
Yeah, I can see that. I see the parallels for sure.
In the original draft, Mickey was called Mobsy, and Jackie was called Judy. Thank God they went for Mickey.
Yeah, Mobsy.
But they really knew that they wanted a black man to play Mickey, and it obviously went to Noel Clarke. Yikes.
It's very sad. Yeah,
it's fascinating that the accusations against Noel Clarke came out as we did Rose first time, and now flash forward 4 years. Yeah, and flash forward 4 years later, he's in court right now.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Yeah, he is. It sucks.
Yeah,
he fucked it for himself because I always had a soft spot for Mickey. I wanted Noel Clarke to succeed. He shows up in Star Trek Into Darkness briefly. He had that show on, was it a Channel 4 ITV show? The last episode was pulled because it happened around the same time as the allegations. And it was getting rave reviews. Apparently he was phenomenal in that show, and everybody was buzzing about him. And it's just all blown up in his face because he's an absolute idiot.
It's kind of funny, but the only reason he was outed because John Barrowman at the same time was outed. And he was like, John Barrowman was like, you think that's bad? Look what he did. Pointing the finger. I feel like people would have forgiven John Barrowman by now if he just didn't. If he just shut the fuck up. Yeah, apologize, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. I think Dan Harmon really is, out of everyone that's been cancelled, he's done it the best in that he just owned up to it, apologized directly to the lady. She forgave him, and then everybody moved on.
Yep. And John Barrowman, just admit you did shit wrong. You know, just say you went to therapy or whatever, and
Sure.
you
don't even have to
apologize.
go. No one gives
Yeah.
a just
Yeah.
there's too much. Just
But you know, having a black recurring character in Doctor Who was quite a big deal because every black person before this wasn't in more than like one story. You know, like this is like the first
Yeah.
proper black main character in Doctor Who, which quite fucking big. Jackie
Yeah,
was
it's crazy.
down to 2 people, but Camille Corduri got it in the end because she had warmth and looked more like Billie Piper, and she is fucking
she
perfect
does.
as Jackie.
She does look like Billie Piper. She could absolutely. She's very believable as her mum, for sure.
Oh, she's so good. For the director of this episode, Edgar Wright was originally asked to direct this episode of Rose, but he was obviously busy at the time doing Shaun of the Dead, which good, good
yeah,
movie.
Yeah. Great movie. I would love to see Edgar Wright direct an episode of Doctor Who still. I think that would be
Yeah,
pretty good.
Keith Boak is the director of Rose and Aliens of Earth and World War III. This is widely believed to be the person who caused Christopher Eccleston to leave after the first series. It's believed that Keith treated certain crew members poorly, violated safety procedures for an unused shot of a burning sofa flying out the window. It's claimed that Keith and Eccleston got into a massive fight, and it's rumoured that a lot of the footage of this episode had to be reshot because it was unusable. So, and Christopher Eccleston himself said that if Joe Ahern, who's also a Series 1 director, if he had directed on day 1, he would have stayed in the role. So it's definitely due to Keith Boak, the reason why Christopher Eccleston left the show. And obviously now the anger has really turned towards Russell T Davies and Julie Gardner. So
I'm sure it was like a multitude of factors.
Yeah.
Like it probably wasn't just one thing, you know. And it could have been pure speculation. Like this director is unprofessional, doesn't work well with Christopher Eccleston and stuff. But Russell T Davies is the showrunner. At the end of the day, it's his responsibility. You know, like TV is led by the writer, not the director. And he continued to hire this guy, continued to work with him. You know.
But it sounds like there was a lot of stuff behind the scenes of Series 1,
Yeah.
especially, like with John Barrowman as well. Like, a lot of
It seems
questionable
like
activities of
yeah,
why
it-
it hadn't been stopped before.
It seems like it was a weird time on set with a lot of people doing weird things.
And John Barrowman likes to say that Julie Gardner told John Barrowman to stop flashing his penis on set. But then, 10 years later, on the TV show Arrow, John Barrowman would get nude in his co-star's trailer and take photos of himself being nude, sitting around on her couch and toilet, and send that photo to this female co-star. So he hadn't fucking learned anything from his time with
Such
Doctor
a
Who.
weird thing to do. Can
And
you
he would
imagine doing that to
he-
any human being?
There's a clip of him online telling the story proudly, giggling to himself to a crowd at Comic Con. It's no. He hadn't learned his lesson. It's very bizarre behavior for, I believe he was 50 around the time of doing Arrow. He was at least in his mid-40s. Like,
Yeah.
bizarre behavior.
Yeah, it's bizarre behavior for anybody at any age, but definitely
Yeah.
when you're in your 40s/50s, for sure.
But yeah, I completely understand why Christopher Eccleston left the show. If he cares a lot about the fucking crew members on every set by the sounds of it. Same with David Tennant. David Tennant, we have a mutual friend who worked with David Tennant on Good Omens, and apparently David Tennant was just helping out with the camera equipment and shit like that, being really nice to people. Like, good for them. That's
Yeah.
That's what you have to be as a main actor. Just be good.
Talk
to
about
people
another
who-
cursed set, though. Good Omens.
Oh my god!
Fucking.
I keep meaning to ask our friend about if he suspected anything because he had direct contact with Neil Gaiman. So
He
I'm
had direct.
interested.
He did have direct contact with Neil
He made him
Gaiman.
porridge.
Constant. daily contact with. He called Neil Gaiman bro. He was like, no problem, bro.
It's pretty horrifying stuff.
Yeah.
And I applied for that job as well, so I
Damn.
applied for that job, so that could be me with that horrible man. Yikes.
Yeah.
So Rose was leaked on the internet on March 4th, 2005, and Russell T Davies was like, this is amazing for us, you know, like, we get early online reviews and everybody's loving it. Like, this is fantastic. I wish this could happen more often. Like, Rose had 9.9 million views when it aired on BBC One, and by the end of the week it had 10.8 million, which is insane in
Jesus.
today's numbers. Like, you don't
Yeah, I
think
know.
about
Imagine getting those numbers now. Holy moly.
it even beat Ant and Dec on ITV. Like, that's how good Doctor Who was. Just 4 days later, it was announced that it was coming back for a second series. And the day after that, it was announced that Christopher Eccleston would not be returning to the show. This article, of course, we know now, pissed off Christopher Eccleston because the BBC falsely quoted him as saying he was too tired to do the role anymore.
Yeah.
And if you say an actor is too tired to do a role, that suggests he can't take on much other work. You know, like he's going to get drained easily. It's nothing you say about an actor. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, he spoke quite openly about how he thought that kind of derailed his career for years and years and years.
And he also said the BBC blacklisted him for a while, and you feel sorry for the man. He's so fucking good in this show. He deserved better.
Yeah.
And the director of this episode was like, Keith Boak, the reason he left the show. The director was like, my only regret is that I never told Christopher Eccleston how brilliant he was in the role. Like, years later, like, that's your only regret? Is that really your only regret? You caused, you burned a sofa, you didn't follow safety procedures, you caused the lead star of the show
to be fair, it's just a credit to how good he is. That's the main regret, you know, because he's that damn good.
And obviously Keith Boak would never work with the show again. He just went off to Hollywood. He directed an episode of Krypton, that Superman show without Superman, which was alright, but he didn't really
I forgot
do
that
much.
was even a thing.
I watched the first season. It was actually decent, but you can tell that they were really tight on budget.
Yeah, who's that show even for? Let's have a show set on an alien planet?
Yeah, it was it was an alien planet, but everything looked like sets.
Yeah, right.
It was about Superman's grandpa or something. I can't remember. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I don't see the appeal, but hey-oh.
It was decent. It was decent. But yeah, that's us with our little preamble.
Damn.
I say little, but it's taken 10 hours. 1 hour and 10 minutes.
An hour, yeah. 10 hours. I hope it hasn't felt like 10 hours. I hope it was interesting. But now we are going to continue this episode as we dive in to Rose itself and break it down. Dive into the episode, Rose, and break it down scene by scene and talk about what we like.
I just realized something. Rose in this episode is 19. Rose is younger here than Rose is
than the
now.
actual episode. Yeah.
God help us. Remember when you were a kid watching this episode thinking, oh, 19 is like so long away. Like, that's a grown-up.
Remember in the trailer 2 for the new series of Doctor Who when they travel back to the distant year of 2007?
God help us all. Remember in series 1 where they travel back to 1987 and that was only 18 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Anyway, let's jump into Rose.
Yeah, let's jump into the episode Rose. Okay.
Doctor, tell me, who are you?
Do you know, like we were saying, about the Earth revolving? It's like when you're a kid. The first time they tell you that the world's turning and you just can't quite believe it because everything looks like it's standing still. I can feel it. The turn of the earth. The ground beneath our feet is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, and the entire planet is hurtling around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour, and I can feel it. We're falling through space, you and me, clinging to the skin of this tiny little world, and if we let go, that's who I am. Now forget me, Rose Tyler. Go home.
So, our episode of Rose begins. The first episode of Doctor Who in 2005, the beginning of a new era, and it opens with the theme song, which is a banger, as always. Fantastic theme song. And we transition out there into space, down towards London, and into the bedroom of Rose through her alarm clock. And we get like this little like intro montage of her going through her day, and it's great. You really get to know all the things you need to know about Rose. You get introduced to Jackie, you get introduced to Mickey, you get introduced to her like personality with all of them, and as she's going about, it's a fantastic, such a concise little montage of like boom, 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 boom. Here's our companion, our lead through into this world. You know,
it's also very Groundhog Day-ish. It's like this is her everyday life. It's repeating the same thing over and over again. Presumably, you know, it's like the next time we see her alarm clock, it's roughly the same shot of the of 7:30 going by. It's the same shot, you know, Groundhog Day. The opening of Just Space is a very similar shot to Spearhead from Space, which was the first time we saw the Auton. So obviously, the special effects here are much better than it was in 1970, but
just a little bit.
Russell T Davies wanted to focus in on space, and then the slow zoom in on Earth to be like, hey, it gives Rose's whole world in outer space context with promise of weird things to come, is what Russell T Davies says. It just focuses on the fact that this is a much more human approach to telling Doctor Who. You know, like in the old series, we would start in space and it would be like, oh, an alien is entering the atmosphere and it's going to attack London for the billionth time or whatever. And here it's just like, yeah, we're going to focus on Rose. It's just a normal day, which is nice because you really do get so much about her character in this little montage here. It's great.
It's I think it's really good because it has that little montage of like, it's just Rose, it's a normal day, she's a regular person, you get to know her. But the Autons show up less than 5 minutes into this episode. You're like 3 minutes in and you've got your villain. You've got the monster. We're off to the races already, you know.
And a lot of people
incredible.
say that 45 minutes is too short of a time to tell a Doctor Who story, but here we have perfect pacing because Russell T Davies is telling the story just straight from the jump. You know, we get our introduction to Rose, and then it's the introduction to the Autons, and then it's the introduction to the Doctor, and then we're just off to the races. It's so quick to get into this, and there's enough tension and character building already. It's impressive as hell.
Yeah, I also think it goes a long way in visual storytelling. Like, this is like, you know, 3-4 minutes of not massive amounts of dialogue, mostly just watching Rose go about her day with the fucking extremely 2005 soundtrack playing in the background. You know, but like,
it feels it's 2005, but also it's like surf guitar music for some reason, which is which was very popular in the 1960s. It's very strange use of music here.
But it's also like, if you compare this to the 60th anniversary or or Space Babies, even, you know, the beginnings of these new eras, which is monologue to camera and an extremely fast-paced delivered monologue being like, oh, this happened, we're doing this, and then you know, like, this is just you just watch Rose. Watch Rose
Yeah.
connect with this one character, and we will build out the rest throughout, because we trust that you're going to be hooked in to these things as we're giving them to you, you know?
Like, one of our first hints at what Rose's life is like is the fact you're subtly picking up on the fact that her father figure is not in the room. You know, it's just her mum she's living with. What happened to her dad? If this was written in 2024, you would immediately get a line from Jackie Tyler being like, "Oh, so your shop blew up. Oh, if we don't have enough money ever since your dad mysteriously died," or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, they would just hammer home. It is a bit of a mystery because we do find out what exactly happened to Rose's dad on that day when he died, but you don't need to explicitly state the fact that she doesn't have a dad. It's normal. You know, visual storytelling, please, subtle, please.
It's also, I think, it's not even something that super needs to be brought up yet.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like, let us learn, like, this is Rose, this is what her house looks like, this is who her mum is, this is who her boyfriend is, and then as we get to know Rose a bit more, we can start asking questions like, oh, where's her dad, you know? Why is she traveling with the doctor? What's her ultimate goals here, and how they all come together, rather than throwing everything out at once. But
I'm just so glad that Rose does not have a mystery surrounding. I know the whole bad wolf thing, but you don't know it's connected to her until she becomes the bad wolf. You don't need to build up that mystery more than it is already built up here. It's
very much in the background. Yeah.
Russell T Davies originally wanted the music here to be Jump by Girls Aloud, but I'm guessing it was just copyright issues. The same thing happened with the other season 1, episode 1, when he wanted Push a Button by the Sugar Babes. I don't know why. He always wants to start a new era with a mid-2000s girl band, but here we go.
Just loves him. That's his type of music. But Rose ends up having to go into the basement of her work after trying to leave. The security guard's like, "No, you have to take this cash." Why the security guard? What? I don't know. I don't work in a shop. I don't really know how they work.
I've never personally given money to a security guard as somebody who works in a shop, so I couldn't answer this question personally. It's a very odd choice, but. This was the moment in the original broadcast where you could hear Graham Norton, because Graham Norton was doing a live show on BBC Three at some point on this night. For some reason, on BBC One, you could hear the audio play from that BBC Three show. So during this tense scene of Rose in the basement, you could just hear Graham Norton joking around and farting around, doing whatever jokes he does, you know? Like, Russell T Davies was sitting there on the night just watching, completely fucking panicked, because is this going to happen to the whole show? It's going to ruin the show.
Yeah, that'd be
Nightmare.
brutal. That'd be insane. Yeah. But thankfully it didn't. I think the tension is extremely well done in this first episode, especially for it being less than 5 minutes in the episode of Rose walking around this basement, and suddenly the tone changes completely from this quick-paced montage to slowing way down and being like, hey, this is a bit creepy, eerie, spooky in the sort of scary way that Doctor Who is, where it's not really scary, but it's got a creep factor where, especially if you're younger, you're going to be like, oh, damn. Edge of your seat, kind of scared, am I allowed to be watching this type of thing? Which is my favorite type of Doctor Who.
Have you ever been startled by a mannequin or a dummy before? Because I certainly have.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to think of like a specific example.
Because there
like
was one time in late 2019 when I was at uni, and I was completely lost trying to get to a class, and I somehow stumbled into the medical area, like the medical training area, and there was like a whole room made up to look like a hospital, and they had one of those medical dummies just sitting on like one of the hospital beds, and from the corner of my eye my brain processes this as like a dead body or something. I'm completely startled because I just realized there's somebody there who's not fucking moving.
You've just stumbled into a horror film. Like.
It was terrifying for like a split second. Horrifying.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. My God. I can't think. There was a time recently where I was startled by a mannequin, briefly, where I just you just assume it's somebody. You know, you
Yeah.
turn around, you're like, whoa,
Yeah,
and then it's like,
yeah.
oh, there's just not a person there at all. But I don't remember the specific circumstances around it. It's a fleeting thought in my mind of this happened. But every time I do look at a mannequin,
Yep.
I have no other thought other than that's an auton. What that's gonna move.
Yeah.
That's gonna kill. That's
It-
gonna come
it's-
out and
it's-
smash things.
Yeah, it's what Doctor Who does best, just taking the most ordinary things and then making it terrifying, like gas masks and other statues, of course.
Toilet plungers.
Yes. Canonically, a toilet plunger from the TARDIS.
I think whenever I have them myself, but wireless earphones, Bluetooth earphones,
yeah.
your AirPods, whatever, they always make me think of the Cybermen and
Yeah.
the alternate universe ones. I remember specifically
It's-
as a kid watching that, being like, "Why would anybody ever want to put two things in their ears like this?" Little did I know.
It's something that I feel like Doctor Who hasn't done for a while. I can't remember the last thing that was ordinary that they made scary. It's been a while, I think.
The sleep in your eye. Ooh.
Iconic episode. It's such a memorable episode. Oh my god.
Yeah, I can't think either, but I guess it's just a downside to they're running out of things. There's only so many things, isn't there?
Yes.
Anyway, so Rose starts getting attacked by the Autons who start coming out, and she is kind of unsure as to what they are, what's going on. She thinks it's some sort of prank of some kind, but she's not on board with it really. Until the Doctor grabs her hand, we pan up to him, run. His first words, iconic first words, I think, for the Doctor,
Yes,
for Eccleston. It's an incredible intro to
It's
everything that he
perfect.
represents. Yeah,
It
there's no
is,
other.
yes.
There's the best way to introduce the Doctor, honestly.
What was Shooty's first words? Because they built up Shooty in the exact same way, but I cannot for the life of me remember his first word.
I'd
in
have to
the
go back
Church
to
on
when we
Ruby
watched
Road.
it. Yeah, I'd have to rewatch
Yeah,
it.
I'm not particularly in the mood to watch it and just remember the fact that she's pointing to a fucking sign that doesn't even exist in this episode.
I've been contemplating rewatching season
Yeah,
1 before season
same.
2 comes out, and the idea of rewatching Church on Ruby Road just makes me be like, I don't even want to fucking do it.
Yeah,
I don't want to do it. You know?
Yeah, it's not a bad episode on its own, but because it's fucking linked so heavily to such a letdown of a final, such a wet fart, it really fucking ruins that episode compared to this, where it's just Rose. It's standalone. You don't have to. It doesn't link to anything in the future, really. It just continues.
But
There's
that's
no
what
mystery
Space
to be
Babies is
unearthed.
for. That's what Space Babies is for. It's an equally good episode. But they run into the elevator, and Rose is trying to justify what she's just seen, being like, it's students, like there has to be some sort of logical explanation. The Doctor's like, oh, that's super clever. It's not that thing, by the way. It wasn't students, and also the guy you were looking for, he's dead.
Wilson, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or is a lot of Wilsons in media who isn't really seen and or dies? You know, there's Wilson from Castaway, who's just a volleyball, and he fucking
Wilson.
dies.
Yeah.
Wilson from Home Improvement, who's Tim Allen's next door neighbor, you don't really see him. And there's
Right.
Wilson here who isn't seen, and then he just fucking dies off screen. There's a lot of Wilsons in media.
Just don't be called Wilson unless you're Wilson Fisk.
I guess, yeah.
You know, he's a big bad guy.
Yeah.
He's.
I still need to see the current season of Daredevil.
So do I. I haven't started it yet.
I haven't
I've
watched
not-
season 3, so I'll probably eventually just watch Daredevil from the start again. I don't know.
I think I'll just jump into Born again. I haven't seen season 3 either,
Yeah.
but I'm just gonna jump. I watched the first 2 seasons. I understand who
Yeah.
Daredevil is as a character. You know, I'm just gonna jump into this. It's like a reboot anyway, so.
Yeah, it's a confusing time for media. It's too much.
There is too much, and I really am not that invested in the Marvel stuff at the minute. So it's been really low
I don't blame
on my
you.
list. Yeah.
Did you see that fucking 5.5 hour chair live stream? Just
Nope, I didn't even know
mwah.
it was happening until you started talking to me about it, and then I was like, it
was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it was the worst thing we've ever done. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
What a world we fucking live in.
Chairs. But Rose escapes her work just as it explodes because the doctor sends her on her merry way.
Fucking
and her
dream.
work-
I fucking wish my work exploded. Holy shit.
Yeah. Why don't you just quit? You know?
It's not the same impact, is it?
That's true. You should blow it up. This is a joke for any agencies. I have no desire
Imagine
to blow
if
up.
my work blows up the day after this episode
I know.
drops.
Yeah.
It would look suspicious.
But Rose makes it back home, and her mum's on the phone, being like,
importantly,
she
she walks past the TARDIS box for the first time.
Yes,
which
of course.
is the intent here was to make it bigger and beefier than the classic series. They wanted people to actually think it could survive in space. Some previous TARDISes have been too small and thin, looking brittle. And they put a lot of effort into making it look wooden, given the implication that it is alive. It is a live thing, which is nice. You know, it's a nice looking box. It's one of my favorite boxes.
It's a good one. I don't think there's really been a bad looking exterior TARDIS in New Who. There's been ones...
New Who anyway.
Yeah, and New Who. I specifically say New Who. I think there's some that look better than others. I think I still prefer the Eccelstone David Tennant one over like the Matt Smith Capaldi like big blues with the white windows and stuff. But they're all nice.
Yeah, starting from the Matt Smith era, it kind of started looking a bit plasticky for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It was too clean, I think.
Yeah, it was too clean. That was it. It's like shiny and well painted and whatnot.
It's supposed to look slightly beat up. You know, it's an old place. It's an old TARDIS, so it should look slightly beat up. You know. Oh, well.
Yeah. But Mickey is introduced in this scene properly as the worst boyfriend in the world, as his girlfriend has just survived a horrific, traumatizing experience of her work, or celebrating experience of her work exploding. And his first instinct is, let's go to the pub and watch football. Somehow we're supposed... are we supposed to like Mickey in this episode?
I don't
Are we ever
know.
supposed to like Mickey?
I don't know. It's one of those, you know, lines where it's like, oh, it's perfectly acceptable for a boyfriend in 2005 to act like this. I don't think there was any expectation for the boyfriend character to act in any other way, but nowadays it's like... I don't think you would write the character.
It's like,
in
be
the
there
same
for your
way.
girlfriend, man. What are you doing? You're supposed to love her.
Especially since she was fucking outside. She could have fucking died. You know,
Get hit by glass,
she's in traumatic
shrapnel.
shock.
Yeah. There's all sorts of things she could be going through. She needs support and care. No, you need a pint and go watch a footy.
What the fuck?
But he does take the plastic arm out to the bin, which leads to, I think, one of the greatest transitions in all of Doctor Who, which is that pan into the bin, which transitions into the alarm clock showing up on screen. It's just beautiful.
Yeah,
I could watch
it's
that
a flashy
all day
shot,
long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could watch that all day long. It's a lovely bit of and so easy to do. Just a slide transition.
It already looks so much more cinematic than most of the classic series, you know, like 99% of it. So, yeah, it's a great easy shot to do. Why not have some more flair to it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And this leads into the next section of the episode, which is kind of Rose brooding about in her flat for a bit. She like wakes up in her bed, and we see it's like the montage from the start of the episode, but slowed down. You know, she's out of that routine. She's no longer in the hustle and the bustle. It's wake up. Oh, I have nowhere to go. which is an amazing contrast to how we started this episode. And this is only 10 minutes in. And there's already so much character and storytelling happening visually, and through editing, not just people standing there being like, I think this.
Oh, fuck. Speaking of just the slide transition we were just speaking of, imagine this episode, but directed by Edgar Wright. Holy shit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
Especially the one take sequence we've got coming up in the next scene. Like, holy shit, that would have been impressive. It's a shame it had to be this shitty person who caused Christopher Eccleston to quit. Like, Edgar Wright would have been an ace in comparison.
Edgar Wright is too talented to work on Doctor Who. He's too good to be kept down in the trenches of Doctor Who, Yeah. Like he did his show Spaced, and then he's off doing movies. He's a big Hollywood man now.
I do wonder, Simon Pegg does show up in the long game at the end, near the end of the season. I do wonder if that's a connection from Edgar Wright being like, I'm so sorry I can't do this, but I'll speak to Simon Pegg, see if he could do a guest spot down the line. I do wonder. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. There's only like 6 people in the TV industry, so they all know each other.
This season is full of Cornetto trilogy actors, especially with the introduction of Harriet Jones in a couple of episodes' time.
Yes, of course, yes. So in this scene with Rose, when she gets up, her mum has a really weird rant about a Greek lady.
Yeah, she's friends with a Greek lady who was able to sue her boss for saying she looked Greek, which is... I'm sure that line would make more sense in the context of the mid-2000s. I'm not really sure what the context of that line is.
I assume it's like a joke on whatever early 2000s woke ness is gone mad, political correctness gone mad, where it's like you can't even say someone's Greek anymore, even if she is Greek. Oh my God, what's the world coming to? But it's such a weird line. And like, I've seen this episode so many times, and I've never even focused on that line before.
Yes.
Like, it's just such a little like matter of the fact kind of muttered in the background line. It's so strange. But it's quickly taken over anyway because the Doctor tries to break into Rose's house through the cat flap, which Rose is super okay with because she's fascinated by the Doctor and she takes him in.
Which, as we discussed with our Survival review, which we just did a few months ago, the original title for Survival was Cat Flap because of the cheetah people who keep going back and forth into our world, into their world, like a cat flap.
Yeah.
The Doctor appearing his head through a cat flap feels almost deliberate, kind of.
It's like poetry.
It rhymes.
It kind of rhymes. Yeah.
It kind of does, yes.
It kind of does rhyme. But Rose invites the Doctor into his house. She gives a quick lie to her mum, being like, he's with the guys investigating the explosion. This is where we get the iconic scene where Jackie tries to have sex with the Doctor.
Which they kind of replicate with Ruby's grandmother, Cherry Sunday, in Church on Ruby Road, where... I can't remember the line, but she's like, "Oh, my name is Cherry Sunday," and the Doctor's like, "Oh, like a nice little treat." I feel like that's a similar connection there because it's also in the bedroom, and this one is so much more fucking better. Phil. Like I fucking love Jackie funny. In this scene.
Yeah,
it's really funny.
Yeah, there's a strange man in my bedroom. Anything could happen. No.
And then the end of the scene ends with the background television going surprise, surprise, which is that a deliberate joke about the Doctor's asexuality? I don't know.
Don't talk about asexuals. J.K. Rowling's gonna come after you.
Oh my God. What a fucking awful person.
But
Jesus
anyway,
Christ.
This is where the scene continues on, and the episode gets a little bit goofy. So they're talking throughout, like, you know, kind of going over the events of what was happening, and how, you know, the doctor takes his tea and stuff, and he's just kind of snooping around her apartment. We get the scene where he checks out his ears.
Yep.
Massively controversial scene now in the canon.
Is it? Is it? In what way?
Well, is it where the Doctor first was? How does it
Oh
fit
yeah,
in
of
with
course,
Big
the whole
Finish?
Big Finish thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still believe every time he hops into the TARDIS, that's him going on other Big Finish adventures.
Yeah, I think that's the easiest way for it to work timeline wise.
Yeah. But of course, this is a direct callback to the episode Robot, where Tom Baker also looks in the mirror and noticed, hey, my nose is normal now.
Yes.
Because that's a slight dig at John Pertwee's nose, which we also just covered. So, yeah.
Yeah, my God.
Yeah.
Look at that. It's like you planned it.
But yeah, the Doctor is just in the background trying to figure out what the gimmick of his Doctor is. He's doing card tricks. He's reading through a book really quickly, which is also a Tom Baker reference, because I think Tom Baker does the same thing in City of Death, I want to say. It's been a while
Probably.
since we covered that one, yeah.
But it's fun. I also really like how it's shot. Because it's cinematic, but it's also like student film cinematic.
Yes.
Where you're like, where you're just learning about blocking and framing, and you're like, oh, but we could frame you through the smaller square in the background. Oh my god, it's cinema. But it does look really good. It looks great.
Yeah. One thing that doesn't look really good is the backdrop, because obviously this is a set, and when you have windows, you need to make it look like it's actually in London. And there's a shot looking outside Rose's kitchen window that fucking looks completely awful. It's like just a flat surface and a really awkward angle for it.
It is a flat surface and an awkward angle, but it is a blink and you miss it sort of thing. You know, like I've never noticed it until you were like, look at the windows, look at the windows, look at the windows. And then you see it and it is like just this flat 2D image of some people walking down a road. But I think it serves its purpose of just generic green, blurry background, you know? Like it doesn't need to be anything more.
The first shot of the Doctor at the door, they had to blur out the background on the computer because it looked so shitty. So they had to do some post-editing to make it look less obvious, which...
Yeah.
Nightmare. Fucking nightmare, man.
Classic Doctor Who. They should have just left it. It would have been a vibe in its own right, you know? But this is also where the episode gets kind of goofy with the arm coming alive and attacking the Doctor, and it's silly camp fun of, you know, the thing strangling him and him being like, It looks dumb as anything, but it's very fun. It is very fun.
In the original draft, I'm guessing they ran out of time to do this sequence. They've realized that the hand is actually attracted to sound, and the hand eventually goes after Jackie because she's in the bedroom drying her hair with a hairdryer. Rose comes up with a solution of ringing the landline on her mobile to distract the arm, and it's kind of a shame they got rid of this scene because it shows that Rose is smart in situations like this. Calling the landline, that's a smart idea. It shows, you know, she's resourceful, but then they cut it and it's kind of just an awkward kind of scene.
It is a bit of an awkward scene. I also understand why they would cut it purely for time's sake alone.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't super need it, and if you have to cut something to make the episode hit 45 minutes, that's going to be one of the first scenes on the block. You know?
Yeah.
So, our episode continues with the Doctor and Rose continuing their student film that they're making as they're doing a one-shot walking through this parking garage bit outside their local flats. And it's very cinematic. It's a
Powell estate.
You know?
It's the Powell estate has somehow become like iconic Doctor Who imagery. They only go here like fucking 6-7 times throughout the entire show.
Do you think they
it's
use
somehow
it
iconic.
Do you think they use it to up the rent in the area? Because it seems like it's like a relatively like supposed to be like council flats, but I reckon they're like, oh, BBC was here. That's an extra £200 a month. Yeah.
I'm sure it's way too expensive to live there nowadays, even though it's like the minimum thing you'd expect.
Yeah, it's like a box of a flat. Yeah.
Yes. Oh god. But fucking hell, look at this scene. There's some conflict going on. Remember conflict?
There's not even just conflict going on. They have a little bit of banter. They have a little bit of back and forth with each other. They have a little bit of friction with each other. They feel like people. They're written. They have a chemistry together. They feel like there's an energy between them, you know, and it's immediate and you believe it. It's not just like these are two of the prettiest people I've ever seen in my life on screen flirting with one another. Like there's substance there beyond just visual spectacle, you know.
You can tell that most of this scene was probably the chemistry test we did together, because what you were saying, we go through a range of so many emotions, and you know, the characters feel complete. You know, they're not just two-dimensional. We're not immediately best friends, and we don't.
Yes.
We aren't best friends throughout the entire season. You know what I mean? We have conflict. They
have a lot of conflict. They're constantly going back and forth throughout the season. I just watched The Unquiet Dead.
Yes.
Literally last night, I watched The Unquiet Dead. I was watching it with my girlfriend because we've been going through
Impossible.
Doctor Who. And even in that episode, which is like episode 3 of the series, like the Doctor and Rose have a morally different outlook on how they should deal with the bodies, which causes conflict between them, and ultimately the Doctor is proven wrong, you know? It's very, very good and incredibly compelling TV, and I've seen the episode so many goddamn times, and I'm still like, this is a banger of an episode.
Yeah, we've even done that episode a few Christmases ago. We really enjoyed that episode when we covered it again. We also did Father's Day, where they also have loads of conflict between what they should do.
Season
with
1
dad.
is a fucking banger. Like, I look at series 1, and it's just like, that's a great episode, that's a great episode, that's a great episode. Like, it's such a solid series. It's superb. I think like, one of the best series in all of the show, you know?
Yes, it is up there. I would say like 1, 3, 4, 5, 10 are all part of the same conversation of just a near perfect season. Those are like the perfect seasons. Every other season has been
there's some
good to bad. Yeah, you know, you just get so much about the character of the Doctor here. There's, you know, the Doctor is angry with Rose. She blundered in, almost ruined the whole thing. The Doctor's like, the whole world revolves around you. Sort of, yeah. You're full of it. Sort of, yeah. Just, just great delivery from Christopher Eccleston here. Like, holy shit, just perfect. And also the way that Rose grabs the Auton hand, kind of like how the Doctor grabbed her hand earlier on in the episode, is hey, you're kind of, you know, I'm getting the impression that you're fucking lonely. I'm kind of lonely, you know. Rose is kind of lonely. She's Russell T Davies describes Rose as kind of being sociable, but from what I get from this episode, she has a mother who fucking does not really care about her. Well, she's kind of over coddling in a way. She doesn't really care about what she's saying in the moment there. She's just like, get money off of it.
Yeah.
And her boyfriend doesn't give a shit about her. So that's two people in her life that doesn't really pay attention to what she needs in the moment. So she's lonely. The Doctor's lonely. They have a connection. It's nice.
Yeah, it is very good and believable, and they have an incredible chemistry. I'm always still like, why is she 19? But it's, I can look past it. It's such a minor little thing, a minor being the key word in that sentence.
Again, I've been watching Buffy from the start, and they do the same thing with Angel and Buffy, except
Yeah.
Buffy is 16 at the start of
It's
that
even
show.
worse. Yeah.
And there's an episode in season 3 where we flash back to Buffy being 15, and Angel is just watching her across the street, just being like, "Oh, that's the girl of my dreams." Apparently,
Yeah,
he's 200
it's
years
best-
old.
It's best not to think about it. It's best not to think about it.
What the fuck is going on? So Rose comes up with the theory of, is somebody trying to take over Britain's shops? In the original draft, she was going to ask if terrorists are involved, which was a big no-no because this was filmed 3 years after 9/11. So
Yeah.
the London Eye asked for the terrorist line to be removed, which makes sense because this episode aired 4 months before the 7/7 terrorist attacks in London. So everybody was already on edge of being like, what's the next major city to be attacked by terrorists? So I would understand that London Eye would be like, we want tourism. We don't want people to think about terrorism in London, please.
Yeah. You don't really... It's not really something you hear about so much anymore, which I guess is kind of a good thing, you know, since the pulling out of Afghanistan, the fall of... fucking, what were they called? Oh my god, fucking ISIS.
Yes.
You know, like, but I remember, like, being a kid into a teenager, you would hear about terrorist attacks all the fucking time. They were just constantly happening, you know? And it's something that thankfully, I think, or at least it's just not reported on as much, but it's way back than where it was before, because it was a terrible time.
Yeah, I mean, you still get terrorist attacks in London, but it's
Obviously,
usually
yeah.
stories of people driving their cars into crowd, and luckily it's only like a couple of people. I would never say luckily. It's fortunately not as big as like bombs.
It's it's not an explosion. It's not an IED. It's not a suicide bomber. It's not like these things. Obviously, they still happen, but they're not as frequent as they were. It used to be just everywhere. It felt like every few months there was a new terrorist attack. You know. Yeah. It was a brutal time. Terrible time.
Yeah, terrible time indeed. But luckily, never really a thing in Scotland. I don't think Scotland was ever the target, so we're mainly
That's
safe.
'cause
Kind of.
Everybody knows we're the best country, and they just leave us alone. The joke, it's actually everyone thinks we're just part of England.
Americans are stupid. What's to learn there?
Yeah.
The Doctor is constantly like, these Autons really want to overthrow the human race and destroy you, sorry. And he's like, do you believe me? Which is, the Doctor is constantly asking for like reassurance. Do you believe me that aliens are taking over the planet? Is that okay with you that I'm an alien, etc., etc.? Like, that's really interesting stuff there.
Yeah, it's that. I think he's just constantly testing Rose, you know? Like, can you handle this? Is this something that you're okay with? Is this something that you can grasp? Is this something you... Because, you know, this is a Doctor who, as well, hasn't had a companion in forever, has been traveling alone, has lost their entire civilization, their entire society, is everybody, and is now like... Maybe there's a connection there, you know, but I gotta test the waters. I've got to check, you know, dip my toe in rather than just dive in full force. This is also where one of my favorite scenes of Eccelstone happens, when they stop and he's like, you know, the world is spinning and I can feel the world spinning, all of it. When he I think the music, specifically Murray Gold's soundtrack, sells this moment so hard. It's like a goosebumps inducing moment. It's so goddamn good.
The lady going ooh woo 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 is always goosebump worthy, and I did a perfect rendition of that. Ooh woo woo woo.
I got goosebumps right now.
Apparently, this scene about the planet spinning around was reshot. Chris Eccleston was unhappy with his performance initially, and Russell T Davies tweaked the dialogue slightly to make it stronger. There's more emphasis on the hand holding in the reshoot, and it's a fucking perfect scene. They have
so good.
such great chemistry together. It's immediate. And are they better than Shiragawa and Millie Gibson? Kind of, because they have more range in just these first 15 minutes. We're 15 minutes and we already have so much
That's
range.
insane.
And we've only
It's
shared
insane that
three or four scenes together. It's insane.
we're 15 minutes into the episode and we've had an hour's worth or like 40 minutes worth of discussion, you know?
Yeah.
Like 35 minutes maybe of like things that have been going on, of like, this is a really good scene for X, Y, and Z. This is a dissect, like this little moment here is really good, which is, I think, something we really struggle with when we watch New Who, because we're like, they just talked, they just were like, everything's great and wonderful and bubbles, and then the episode ended, you know?
Yes. There is just so much to unpack here already. It's a perfect pacing as well, and they've used the perfect villain for this episode, the Autons. You don't have to explain too much about their evil plans. People remember the Autons from the 70s. You know, it's nostalgia, and they're more. You know, the whole reason the Autons were chosen because it was more believable than, you know, some reptilian monster chasing Rose and the Doctor around London. You know, you believe the Autons are kind of real compared to any other alien, like the Boogeymen, for example, and the Christmas goblins. Like, that's less believable. This is more believable. It's a perfect sci-fi gateway drug. Honestly, it was my sci-fi gateway drug. It's just so good.
It would have been up there with the same time as I was discovering things like Star Wars and stuff, you know, like I'm 5 years old, and this is, you know, it's like the gaining of consciousness, the discovering of things that you like, and it's like Star Wars, Doctor Who, it's these sci-fi, these bigger ideas, these interesting little monsters that are tangible in the real world. Like, you can go out shopping with your mum and see a mannequin and be like, oh shit, this is like I'm in Doctor Who. And it sends your imagination crazy as a kid, you know? Like, if you go out now as a child, you can't be like, oh shit, that's a goblin. You know,
Yes.
you know?
Oh, God.
It's just, it doesn't have that same real world connection.
Yeah. I guess, you know, if you're in a room and something falls over and it's like a glass or something, you could imagine it is an invisible goblin, but it's a lot more to leap towards than
that's such a way more specific scenario than just seeing a mannequin, which you see hundreds of every day, you know?
Yeah.
But heyo, them's the times, I guess. I am curious as to how much of our podcast is turning into us getting old and disliking the new Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Like, if we were making this podcast in 2005, would we be like, this is nothing like how it was back in the 80s, you know?
I mean, I think we really would have been complaining about, oh, they shouldn't kiss and they shouldn't do this. I guess we are kind of complaining about that, but less so than the people in 2005. It's less of a culture shock here.
Sure, yeah. But the episode continues onwards with the Doctor leaving Rose and Rose heading back to see Mickey to use his computer. In which he is like, don't check my emails because he's... Why wouldn't you want to check his emails? Is he cheating on her? Is he signed up to several different pornographic websites that are sending email notifications to him? What is the reason?
Yeah, and also Mickey is like, oh, fucking, it's in the bedroom. Anything to get you in the bedroom or something like that. And it's like, Mickey, no.
Although,
again,
how old is Mickey supposed to be? Like, Rose is 19. Is Mickey 19?
In Father's Day, Mickey is like a
wasn't he?
6-year-old boy, and Rose is the baby. So I think there's a 5-year difference.
That's
something
gross.
like that.
That makes Mickey
So
gross.
He's
That makes-
26.
that
How old
makes-
are you?
That makes Mickey
No,
gross.
sorry. He would be 24, which, yeah.
That's still a bit yuck. That's still a bit yuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like,
No.
why are you dating a teenager? You're 24 years old. Come on.
Mickey's flat is the same set as Rose's, which I think you would notice. It's kind of noticeable, but you wouldn't think too much about it.
A lot of flats are uniform, especially if they're
Yeah.
like council flats. So I think your brain's just like, yeah, it's a small square, you know.
So Rose uses searchwise.net to look up the Doctor, which is of course our favorite search
That's
engine.
what I use for all
we're
of my
sponsored by
searches.
them. So searchwise.net was a real website, but it wasn't an actual search engine. It was made for films and TV shows to use. So they would use this website in their shows to show characters browsing the internet if they didn't want to pay to show Google or Yahoo or Bing or DuckDuckGo or Ask Jeeves. What's the other ones?
I think you
I
got
only
the main
use Google.
ones.
I only use
Yeah.
Google, but Google is going downhill, so...
Google is
We'll see.
terrible. I mean, all search engines are terrible. If I'm being real, I just type the URL directly into the search bar. Where if I want to go to YouTube, I go to youtube.com. If I'm asking a question, I'm either putting that question to Google or I'm just using ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Like that's where we're at. That's the dystopia future we live in now. You know.
Yeah, it's amazing how small the internet is becoming compared to 2005, when it used to feel so much more infinite. When
Yeah.
websites like didyousethedoctor.com or whatever Clive's website is would exist. This website existed in real life, where you could see the badly photoshopped image of Christopher Eccelstone at the JFK assassination.
That used to be one of my favorite things to do. Is if a TV show had a website, is pause it, see the URL, and go to that URL in real life to see if they actually made it a website. Because more often than not, they did, and you would get fun little bits on it. You know, I think
How I
Scrubs
Met
did
Your
it,
Mother
Community
would
did
do-
it. How I Met Your
yeah.
Mother, yeah.
Yeah, How I Met Your Mother had like fucking 50 websites just for that show alone. I
Yeah.
think most of them are shut down nowadays. Breaking Bad even did one. You could actually go to the website raising funds for Walter White's cancer treatment,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
great.
It's a tiny little fun interactive bit that TV shows can do that they don't really capitalize on anymore, which is crazy because I feel like it's
Yeah.
easier now than ever
Yeah.
to have a
Yeah.
fake website. You know?
Yeah, I guess it's too much money to keep the servers up for a long
guess.
time for just a
Yeah.
website, but it's just a dummy website. But it used
Just
to be
make
so
it
much
on
more fun back in the
Squarespace.
day.
Just make a shit website on Squarespace. You know how much is that really gonna drive the bill up so much if you have a bad website on
No.
Squarespace? Like. But this is where Rose discovers Clive, our one and only, and she makes a connection with him and goes to see him, much to Mickey's chagrin, as he's like, hey, he could murder you and kill you dead. But we discovered that Clive is not like that. In fact, Clive is a family man. Clive has got a wife and a son, and they love him, and he is a great father. And there is nothing that Clive would do that wouldn't support his family. Like he's just a pure-hearted gold gem of a man, and I hope nothing bad ever happens to Clive because he's too pure.
Clive actually has a lot of weird history in the expanded media. For example,
really?
did you know on Christmas Eve in 1975, when Clive was 14, he encountered the 12th Doctor at a newsagent's and followed him into his TARDIS after noticing that he was using coins from 1987 as it was As it was Christmas Eve, the Doctor decided to give him a quick trip. At Clive's request, they travelled to Loch Ness in the summer of 1979 to find the Loch Ness Monster. And after an adventure involving a plot by the monk to depopulise and sell the Earth, the Doctor returned Clive home and blurred his memories of the incident. Oh, and also his father's death was caused by the Daleks and the Doctor, apparently, the latter of whom he made his lifelong mission to fully understand and solve the mystery of our numerous incarnations across time. So he has history. His dad was shot by a Dalek, apparently.
R.I.P. Clive's dad. And R.I.P. Clive, shot by an Auton. I wonder what Clive's son's up to. I wonder what Doctor Who villain is going to shoot him.
Oh God! But yeah, just add in so much more history to this guy for no reason.
Yeah, but they go through like various history points with the Ninth Doctor, being like he's been at JFK's assassination, he was on this island, he's done this, and this, and there's all these really bad photoshops that we've made with Ecclestone's head, seeing it, and it's a very silly scene, but you know, and it also adds more to the confusion of where does the Ninth Doctor take place. But timey-wimey shit, he's gone off and done these adventures and then come back.
Sorry, I'm reading some interesting stuff here. Following Clive's death in the invasion, Mickey Smith went to visit Clive's widow, but accounts varies on the exact circumstances. According to some accounts, Mickey visited Clive's wife within the week following the attack, and after discussion they agreed that he could take on Clive's mantle, which Mickey found to be an honour. He sought to prove the truth about the Doctor to the world, which is an interesting thing for Mickey to do after the disappearance of Rose for an entire year, to spend his time searching for the Doctor and shit like that with Clive's research. That's cool. I kind of like
cool.
that.
Yeah. Again, if only they gave Mickey any sort of character.
Yes.
You know, in the actual show that we could relate or care about, that would be interesting.
Oh, well.
However, that being said, we do get the most iconic Mickey scene in this episode, which is he goes out because there's a bin moving, and the bin is made of plastic, living plastic autons. It eats him up. It does a big burp. It looks very silly. It's very goofy. But this leads to Plastic Mickey. Yep. So Rose doesn't believe a single thing of Clive's story. She thinks he's a lunatic conspiracy nut. And she goes back into the car with Plastic Mickey, who somehow she doesn't notice is made of plastic. And look, she doesn't see color. She's not racist.
Okay. So on the commentary for this, Russell T. Davis is like, would you notice if the only thing that was different about your partner was that, she's kind of shinier than she used to be now? Would you notice? Would you think, she's being possessed by an alien?
Sure.
Or she's just really sweaty for some reason. Maybe, maybe it's too hot in this car.
I wouldn't necessarily notice if my partner was more shiny. I think I would notice if my partner was bug-eyed, smiling, had a different haircut, and was talking in an inhuman way, and later on in the day started modulating their voice to be higher and lower. I think at that point I might have a few questions as to what's going on.
Is it canon that he speaks in that voice, or is it just for the show? What do you think?
Rose looks at him weird. Rose is like, whoa, what are you doing that for? So it has to be canon. Surely.
But she could be just going like that because he's saying, darling baby, sugar, sweetheart. Like,
sure.
That's out of character.
Yeah.
But
I guess, but at the same time, what's the point in doing it if it's not canon? I'm not getting anything as an audience member, experiencing something that Rose isn't experiencing.
But this is definitely the goofiest segment of the episode. But it works because you're already invested in the real grounded shit between Rose and the Doctor. Like, you've just come off of an incredible scene with them two. So you're already invested. You can already you're already able to hang with some of the goofier bits of his show. Whereas in, like Church on Ruby Road, once that singing starts with a gobbling king and you're not invested, that's just 3 minutes of just pure goofiness.
Yeah.
There's not really anything before that to really engage you, which is
3
a
minutes
shame.
of pure goofiness and a terrible song. I stand by. That song is shit.
It still plays on my Spotify. I never skip it.
It's so bad. It's so bad. But this scene, we haven't said it yet, but pizza is iconic. If you ever want to order a pizza, if you ever want a pizza, like if you're not using this GIF to say to your family member, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whoever, your partner, that you want pizza tonight, are you even a Doctor Who fan? Like, it's the perfect gift. What's for dinner tonight? Pizza. Like, it's perfect.
I watched this episode with my mum in October, just like half a year ago. We were eating pizza. I grabbed a pizza slice as the scene was on, and I looked at the pizza and I said, pizza. And then, like 2 seconds later, Mickey did it on screen. And my mum was like, how did you know he was going to say that?
I like that your mum thinks you're not a huge dork. That's...
But, if you ever want to give a pizza man a nice surprise, you cover yourself in, like, grease.
Vaseline.
Make yourself look
Vaseline.
as shiny as possible.
Yeah.
And get a Lego haircut. And when the pizza man arrives, you look at them dead in the eye, stare into their eye,
pizza.
and go, pop, pizza.
Yeah, exactly. It's the only way to do it. It's the only way to do it. But Mickey and Rose then go off for dinner to get Papa Pizza, and somehow Rose still hasn't noticed there's anything off with Mickey. And the entire time he's just asking questions about the doctor, wanting to know who the doctor is, where the doctor is, all this information about the doctor. And Rose is like, oh, you just don't care about me, do you? And then the waiter comes over to ask about champagne and who ordered the champagne. And I think this is a wonderfully blocked scene again.
Yeah.
Because you as the audience can kind of figure out it's the doctor if you're listening for Eccleston's voice. But if you're not listening for Eccleston's voice, you fall in line with Rose and Mickey, who don't move their eye line to look at the doctor. So when that reveal comes of he's been the waiter the whole time, it's a fantastic little reveal of like, oh shit, the doctor's got one up on us here, like he's on top of the game. It's a really fun little scene that quickly becomes a bit silly with the big hammer hands.
So first of all, in this scene, Rose Tyler mentions a character called Jimmy Stone. It's all Jimmy Stone's fault. I only left school because of him, and look at where he ended up. Wouldn't you be surprised? Jimmy Stone has a Wikipedia page and more lore around him. Rose was either 15 or 16 when she met Jimmy Stone. Regardless of her exact age, it was in September 2002 she met 20-year-old Jimmy Stone. Again, she was
20.
15 or 16 meeting a 20-year-old.
Age gaps, man. Ugh.
Jimmy Stone, the bass guitarist of the band's No Hot Ashes, which was local to the Powell estate. He had a reputation of being the fittest boy on the estate, and Rose fell head over heels in love with his man who was 5 years older than her. Yikes.
Yuck.
Rose dumped her current boyfriend Mickey Smith and dropped out of the school earlier than her A levels and moved into a bed sit with Jimmy. 5 months later, on February 2003, the relationship broke apart. Rose returned home, £800 in debt. Jimmy had to travel to Amsterdam with a woman named Noosh in a camper van. According to another account, they broke up after being together for a year, sometime in late 2003. Blah, 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 blah. Jimmy would serve 18 months in prison. Okay. And when he got out, all he could do was sell brushes from door to door. On March 5th, 2005, Jimmy was robbing his current girlfriend, Abina, during the Auton invasion when he was killed by a group of Autons who chopped him up into little pieces as he left Abina's house. So he died.
R.I.P.
Wow.
The Doctor Who side characters, I think, are so interesting. Such interesting.
just
little
learning.
people.
But, the CGI choosing to do a plastic kind of character works because the CGI at this time looked fucking plastic. It's how Toy Story works so well. When your CGI is only good at doing plastic, let's start with plastic. Why not?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's a good starting point. And when Mickey gets his head ripped off and headless Mickey starts running around with these big flat like slamming fists, it's goofy and silly, but it doesn't look terrible. It's still a good looking effect, And
I forgot to mention the best part of foreshadowing in this episode. I'm sorry to interrupt you. But, the scene of Mickey being tossed into the bin was great foreshadowing of where Noel Clark is today. In the fucking bin. That's where he fucking deserves to be, you fucking bastard.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, but also, there's a lot of information that's being public now. So.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, legally speaking, these are all alleged.
Is he going to go after us? I don't think so.
I doubt it. But
I fucking do love the fact that he's suing the Guardian for alleged defamation. And all the Guardian are doing now is just reporting on the information that keeps coming out of the court cases. So the Guardian is spreading more shit about him now than ever before. It's fucking Barbra Streisand effect. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's it's a nightmare of his own doing because he could just choose to not be a piece of shit, but that was his choice, allegedly.
It is also funny about John Barrowman threw him under the bridge.
Yeah.
What a world.
Fucking hell. Another
season 1 is kind of cursed with sexual
It is really
pests.
cursed. Yeah, it's super cursed.
Because Adam is also a sex pest.
Yep. It's such a good series, and the cast and everyone involved are so terrible. It's so sad. But this whole sequence ends up leading to an introduction to a bunch of different things all at once. We get an introduction to the sonic screwdriver, with the Doctor locking Mickey out, and it's a very good introduction to the sonic screwdriver. I think.
We saw it the first time we saw the Doctor, but he didn't name it by name.
But this is like an introduction where he uses it and says this is a sonic screwdriver. Doesn't necessarily explain what it does. I don't think it needs explaining what it does. It's a sonic screwdriver. You can figure that out. That's
nowadays explaining the sonic screwdriver would be like 3 paragraphs.
Yeah.
It's too much now. The exposition is just too much nowadays. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think it's this. It's almost like this weird need to feel like anybody watching the show needs to be aware of the last at least 15 to 20 years of lore. When a Doctor Who's at its best when you can just watch an episode, regardless of when it is, and figure out everything that's going on,
I mean, part of the fucking point of the show is mystery. You're
Yeah,
not supposed to
it's
get
called
everything
Doctor Who.
explained to you.
Yeah.
When you start doing PowerPoint presentations from the master explaining, oh, this is what happened in your past. You've gone too far. I'm sorry. I don't mind the Timeless Child as a concept. It just fucking terrible execution. It's fucking awful. Whereas here, there's a lot of explaining things to the audience. And it works because it's conversational. That's how you do the best exposition. It's just a conversation. Whereas, when Shutigawa is explaining that he's the last of the Time Lords, fucking comes out of nowhere. Ruby doesn't have much reaction to it. There's not a conversation going on. He's just info dumping. Bizarre.
Yeah, it's weird, I think, to see how media has changed in the last 20 years between this and the new series one, because it does feel like the writing has gotten worse. And I don't know if that is just me being jaded fan, being like it was better when I liked Doctor Who, but how much of it is actually it's just gotten, because I think it's so obvious how it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
And yet it's almost like every single show is using the same mistakes that make shows bad, you know? And I have no idea. I think streaming. I'm going to blame streaming.
Yeah.
TikTok is
Absolutely.
TikTok.
Yeah, because fucking Netflix, fucking Amazon Prime are making shows now. We've discussed this before, but they're making shows so that if somebody's at home on their phone browsing TikTok or Tinder or Facebook or Twitter, just doom scrolling and half paying attention, that they can also just have a show in the background and understand everything, because every character stands around talking about shit, like in what was it, Legend of the Sea Devils, which was the worst part for that. Yeah. Just every character interaction going, oh, look over there, it's a sea, it's blue.
Yeah, no, it's pretty bad. And then every now and then you get like a good show that makes you be like, maybe they're going to learn. But those are the blips that they throw out to trick you and I into continuing our subscription. It's the endless trash that gets all the other people, you know?
What are next?
But we get the wonderful reveal of the TARDIS when Rose comes in. And again, Marigold's soundtrack is on fire in this episode. It's superb. The reveal of the TARDIS is great. It's a beautiful TARDIS. I think it fits Ecclestone's character. I think it fits Ecclestone's character better than Tennant's by a large degree, you know? But it is an iconic TARDIS interior. It's not my favorite. Of course, my favorite is the Doctor Who movie. That is a fucking banger of a TARDIS.
But the reveal itself of having Rose enter the TARDIS, we as an audience member do not see the TARDIS. We just see Rose's end of it. And then she goes back out, runs around the TARDIS again. She's like, is this real? And then she goes back into the TARDIS, and then we finally see the TARDIS. Just a perfect way to tease out this information, because if a show's been off for 16 years, everyone's dying to see what the new TARDIS looks like, you know? Because it probably hadn't leaked online. Actually, it did leak online, because this episode leaked online. But, you know, you could be online and not be spoiled, at least, back in these days. And you're just on the edge of your seat, just waiting for the reveal. It's perfect.
Yeah, it is very, very good. And this is the scene that we talked about before.
The design itself, I'm sorry, I'm going to go on a long tangent here, but it's really interesting. Dan Walker was the main designer of the interior. He had just come off of designing the cockpit in the Batmobile in Batman Begins, so he's just fresh off Nolan's film there. He really wanted it to look organic with coral, glass, and timber inspirations. He didn't want flashing lights. He thought it would make sense if the Doctor was a collector and replaced broken things in the TARDIS, thinking a chess piece could make for a great switch. Adding personality, really. He really wanted to avoid a sci-fi feel, get away from it feeling metal and cold. He wanted to give it a cathedral-type structure to get away from it feeling like a studio set. They came up with a suggestion that originally the TARDIS would have been piloted by multiple people, emphasizing the Doctor now being on his own. They wanted it to be much bigger, but Julie Gardner pointed it out that if it was bigger, it would be difficult to use. It would take too long for the characters to get from the doors to the console. We didn't need that space anyway, so keeping it smaller was a better choice. And then obviously for the 2023 TARDIS, they went the fucking complete opposite way. It now no longer feels alive. It's just cold and white. there's too much
flash
and light.
It has a jukebox. It's got a jukebox. What do you mean? There's a jukebox there.
But yeah, the whole wooden design of the interior of the TARDIS is fucking perfect. It feels alive.
It's one of the
so
things.
great.
It's the whole reason why I fucking love the Doctor Who movie TARDIS, is
Yeah.
because it doesn't feel like a white cold spaceship interior. It's like there's a fireplace, there's a bookshelf, there's a chair.
Yes.
It's like a home. It's lived in, you know. And there just happens to be this console to it. There's texture and history, and it feels lived in. Like this is the Doctor's only place of solitude and his home, you know. Which you do not get with the new TARDIS. The new TARDIS is grand and big and stunning the first time you see it, but it's soulless. It's empty, you know.
The best they've used the new TARDIS so far is having David Tennant run around the first time it gets revealed. Since then, they've not... I guess them changing clothes and the camera pans up to them already changed clothes in the Devil's Cord. That's a great shot. They're going to repeat it in Season 2 as well. But we were supposed... Like, Russell T Davies is like, oh, you won't believe the things we do inside of this TARDIS. What, change the lights around sometimes? And...
Remember, they revealed they revealed there was a ramp into the TARDIS, but they still didn't let the wheelchair user in. You can look at the ramp, but you're not going on it.
Good lord, what the fuck is happening with this new TARDIS? It's just completely backwards to the point of this TARDIS. I don't understand why they thought it was a good idea. It's just a waste of space as well.
I think it's a mix of not wanting to do what you've already done.
Yeah.
And not understanding what made it work in the first place. You know? And so you're trying to not repeat yourself, but you're also not... You're basically just doing everything that didn't work and the reason why you didn't do it the first time.
When I was a kid in 2005, in the summer of 2005, after the series aired, I remember going to a park with my mum, my friend, and her mum. And I remember there was like a big bushy area with loads of trees. And we would fucking go in like that bushy area and just play around pretending we were piloting the TARDIS. Because it kind of came over us like a big dome kind of situation. And we just let our imaginations run wild and pretended we were piloting the TARDIS. It was so much fun.
I would be so interested in knowing if Doctor Who still has the culture, like the impact with children that it had when we were kids, and I'm almost certain it doesn't. Mostly because, like the people, the adults that I talk to these days, when I tell them, "Oh, I like Doctor Who. I have a Doctor Who podcast." They're almost every single one of them is, "Oh, I haven't watched Doctor Who since David Tennant." And it's like, but it's so good.
So you just lie to these people, telling them it's so good when it hasn't been good in almost a decade.
Sure, but Doctor Who's never been good. You know?
God, it's such a weird show.
It is such a weird show, but it's you know, I think it's harder to connect with children than it's ever been before because there's so much more competition. You know?
What I fucking loved about Doctor Who back in the day, Saturdays and Sundays weren't really known for kids appropriate shows. You know, like you'd get your Saturday morning cartoons, but then the rest of the day would just be sports and quiz shows and more sports. I mean, you had something to look forward to at 7 p.m. every Saturday night. It was something that was geared towards you, but it also treated you like an adult at the same time. Like, this episode deals with a lot of complicated topics, like the Doctor being a victim of like genocide. That's a big topic, and it's not presented in a jokey way for kids. It's like, yeah, we're going to be adults with you. Like when we get to Dalek, that episode was so frightening as a kid. But the episode Dalek, like, it treated you like an adult at the same time.
Yeah, it's the amount of episodes in series 1 alone that are like legitimately scary Like,
Yes.
The Unquiet Dead, Dalek, Father's Day, The Empty Child, Bad Wolf. Yeah, like it's like half of the episodes in the series are legitimately like edge of your seat scary. If you are, even if you've just never seen it doesn't even matter if you're a kid. If you've never seen the episode before, you're like, this is kind of scary. What the fuck is this? You know, you just don't get it anymore. It's trying to recapture that feeling that's already gone, which, you know, this is recorded before series 2 has aired of Ncuti Gatwa's era. If it's going to be out before then, I don't really know. It really depends on my schedule. It'll be out either maybe a week or two. When's the new series start? This weekend? Next weekend?
Yes, in a couple of days.
Yeah, insane. So it'll probably be out after the first episode has aired, which is already getting bad reviews. And, you know, but we're going to hold off. We don't know our judgment to it yet. But I'm almost certain that this is going to be more impactful and still going to be this is where you start Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Rather than series 2, you know?
Yeah. It's a shame. It's just, you know, like all the money now being put into it, I don't think it needs that kind of money.
I don't think money's ever been the problem for Doctor Who. It's fundamentally the entire thing that we talk about in this podcast is from a writing perspective. Doctor Who lives and dies by its script, and what we've been saying, which is what I'm excited about with season 2, new blood, new writers. We need some fresh eyes on Doctor Who. You know, we thought maybe Russell T Davies coming back was going to be the godsend that it was going to be, but I don't think it is. I think we need someone that's completely unrelated to Doctor Who to come in and bring a fresh take on the show, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. We'll see what this new season brings, which we'll be covering. We're already covering it, I guess.
Yeah,
you know.
At this point. I don't know when this is going to come out, so.
Yeah, but we'll be reviewing every episode of the new season, so listen to us and listen to how much we hate it.
Oh yeah, I bet it stinks. I hope it's good. But this
crossed.
episode, we've gone on a massive tangent. This episode continues with the Doctor coming out at the Thames, I guess, being like, you know, the Autons are going to be using their control from this massive big radio tower. There's going to be this huge thing. It would be impossible to hide it in London. It's going to be that big, and this is where the cinematography I think is great. The comedy comes in. It shows a more almost human side of the Doctor, where he's super smart and great, but misses the obvious, you know. And you see the eye behind him, like framed perfectly around his head, and you as an audience are figure it out before he does. It's a fantastic bit of direction and editing.
Again, just great lines as well throughout this entire sequence. It's all exposition, but we also get great lines. We get great character beats with the Doctor being, with Rose being like, "It's alien." Yes. Are you alien? Yes. Is that all right? Again, the reassurance, making sure that Rose is okay with what's going on. And then the Doctor forgets about Mickey twice. Forgets about the fact that, hey, you're probably grieving your boyfriend right now. Yeah. He thinks Rose is crying because of a reaction to the TARDIS, which, again, just removes layers of, you know, he's not human, so he doesn't give a shit about one human if he's trying to save 6 billion people. 6 billion people in 2005. I still can't believe
that's
it.
insane. Yeah, we're at what, 8 billion? 8 billion people? 9?
Yeah, we're
8 billion?
We're close to 9, I think.
Oh my god. Hang on, let's find out. Current world population. 8.6062 billion.
Jesus Christ.
So we've gone up 2 billion people in 20 years. Which
in
seems,
2005 it was 6.5 billion.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Although there's the mathematic statistic that's like is gonna like basically plateau at like 10 billion and then start to come down again. So it's not really anything to super worry about. It's just it's impossible to even fathom that many people existing.
Yeah.
You know?
In 1963, when the show first started, it was 3.1 billion still.
Gee, that's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah. 3 billion people versus 8 billion people.
Cursed.
I guess it makes sense though. Like if you have a society where technology, medicine, and like basically education, everything is constantly improving, people are gonna live longer. They're going to they're gonna have more kids. They're gonna you know, have a better life on paper anyway. So it makes sense why the population's so big, you know.
We also get another great line, lots of planets have a north, to just immediately hand wave the Doctor's British accent.
I love it. I love it.
It's perfect. It's and you know, the scene of the buses driving past them as they run to the underground part, they had to wait ages for those buses to pass. And again, I just wonder if those people in the bus realized they were on Doctor Who. Like, surely that must be exciting if you watch TV like 6 months later and just realize, oh shit, that's me.
Yeah, that's the bus I take home from work every day.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So our episode continues with the Doctor and Rose finding their way into the Nestine Consciousness's base of operations.
Yeah.
And it's this big CGI molten sludge.
Yeah.
That's kind of got a face, kind of doesn't, and it kind of like is bulging and whatever. And it leads to a conversation with the Doctor and the Nestine Consciousness, or rather, like a one-sided like the Doctor's replying to gurgles and burps and whatever. And we get some exposition about the Time War, about the Doctor participating in the Time War, about the tragedy of the Time War, and it's some really good lore dump immediately without giving away what the answer is or what the Time War is. And this is something that they're going to answer, or they're going to talk about for the next like 10 years, you know? Like it's or like, you know, like 7 years, but it's, I love the Time War stuff. That's what really hooked me as a kid and a preteen, is the idea of the Time War. And just that entire concept, I think it's one of the best bits of Doctor Who lore. It's so tragic.
Yeah, it's a fucking great idea to kick off a new era for Doctor Who, because you add so much more mystery to the Doctor's character now, because old fans are wondering what the fuck happened between the movie and Rose. Younger fans who are just watching this for the first time, we only ever know the Doctor is like the last of his kind. That's something that was ingrained with me as a child. I thought in the old series you would never see the Time Lords. I mean, obviously, when you do see the Time Lords in the old series, they're fucking boring as shit. Even in the new series, they're boring as shit whenever we
they don't do anything with them, yeah.
No. Like, when they return in The End of Time, they just stand around in a fucking room talking to the Doctor and the Master. Just really boring in front of a white wall.
Yeah.
But yeah, Russell T Davies was like, okay, are you going to be interested in the Doctor if he says he's from a big planet and it's full of important people, and the Doctor eventually goes off to meet these very boring people? Or are you going to be more interested in, I'm alone, I don't have anybody? That's more interesting for sure, because as a kid, I felt the same way. Just, you know, like the topic of like the Doctor is grieving his own people. This was like 6 months after my dad died as a kid. So I'm like, I see myself in the Doctor. I see myself in Rose because she has no dad. I'm immediately connecting to these characters because they're dealing with real fucking shit.
Yeah. No, it's I think possibly the best idea Doctor Who has ever had.
Yeah.
I don't think they've had a better idea than the Time War, and I don't even know necessarily if the intricate details of the Time War top the initial concept of the Time War. It's such a good hook into the universe, the world, and the character. And it's almost like, if you compare, so there's like 3 eras of Doctor Who now. You know, there's like the original, there's New Who, or were they calling it like Modern Who? And then there's now New Disney Who.
Yeah.
And I think the point of separation is the continuation line between Modern Who into Ncuti Gatwa's era. Because there's not that time jump, there's no skip, there's no huge world-changing event. It's just a continuation. It doesn't feel like a new era, you know?
I mean, you almost got that with the whole bi-generation thing, and Ncuti Gatwa's... I don't even know how old Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor is. How long has he been the Doctor? It doesn't make any fucking sense to me.
Yeah.
Is he like a newborn still, or... No, he's not a newborn, because he doesn't go through any of the post-regeneration stuff. It doesn't make sense inside of my head to properly work out the two, but it does imply there's a fucking time gap with the 14th Doctor supposedly maybe being on Earth for like 40 years, whatever, until Catherine Tate eventually fucking dies. Sorry, Donna dies, not Catherine Tate. But yeah, there is supposed to be a time skip, but the time skip doesn't play into anything. It's just to do a cool, cool concept.
The universe is still the same before and after the time skip. There's no major change. Like, the Time War is a major change to the lore.
Yes.
Like, that's a huge event that's happened off screen. There's not been any huge events happening off screen between this era and the current era, you know?
Also, whereas we're still in season 1, where it's explicitly implied that, hey, other fucking planets went through the Time War as well. The Nestian consciousness is on Earth because their planet was destroyed. The Galf wanted to take over bodies because they either their planet died or they pretended their planet died. I can't remember, but they used that to trick the Doctor. They kind of
pretended. There's like billions of them, they say.
And then they fucking forget, after series 1, they forget that other planets was involved in the Time War, which is
really
a shame because there's so much
Daleks
more interesting.
Time Lords.
Yeah. There's so much more to be explored with that idea, and I'm sure they've done it on Big Finish. I've listened to a box set of the 8th Doctor's Time War series, and it's really good stuff. I need to get back into it. It's not enough time. But
who's got any time in the world?
But yeah, I do miss the aspect of other planets were involved. Other planets lost lives. Because it builds more impact to the Doctor. Like, he waited so long to destroy Gallifrey that ended the Time War, and he let people die on other planets. That's more of a burden to the Doctor than just, hey, I pushed a button and all my people died. But all the other people died because you took so long to end the Time War. That's more interesting stuff right there, but they never go anywhere with it.
Yeah, and it's a somewhat of a lost opportunity. You know, I still enjoy what they did with the Time War, and I still think it led to some really compelling stuff later down the line in the show. It's just I feel like Doctor Who is lacking that sort of hook nowadays that it had back then, you know.
Hey, in the new trailer for season 2, Ncuti Gatwa talks about being the last of the Time Lords, which people have an issue with for some reason. I prefer him being the last of the Time Lords. I'm sorry.
The Master killed them all. He turned them all into Cybermen. Yeah.
The Doctor just saying he's the last of the Time Lords is an issue with people because he said it before. Who the fuck cares? He is the last of the Time Lords. It would make sense he would say that. And it's something that Ncuti Gatwa can relate to. I'm glad they're focusing on that element of it more now, because he's a survivor of genocide. It's a big deal. I really hope they find a new angle for it this season.
Yeah, they need a new hook, I think. Something else to keep the show going, for sure. But the Doctor gets attacked by some Autons, and they reveal the anti-plastic that he's had in his pocket, which he claims is just for insurance. But why would they ever believe that, you know? And this kind of sets off a huge attack by the Autons. And a big action sequence happens where the Autons come to life. They murder Clive in cold blood in front of his wife and son, which is probably the most tragic thing to ever happen in the history of Doctor Who. Rose's mum goes through a nightmare scenario where like all of this is happening around her and she doesn't hear from her daughter at all. The Doctor is somewhat helpless. Mickey is a bumbling piece of shit, and the only person left to save the day really is Rose. And thankfully, Rose is a master gymnast. This is information that we didn't know until right this moment, and that we'll never know again. But thank God she remembered it for these 5 minutes, you know?
It's like the opposite of Ryan's dyspraxia. They bring it up occasionally, but then they forget about it whenever it's relevant.
Yeah, literally.
But I've said it before on our previous podcast of this episode, but her randomly doing gymnastics at the end of the episode just reminds me of Jurassic Park 2, where Jeff Goldblum's daughter kicks some dinosaurs in the faces.
Yeah, and it's also terrible. It's also terrible in that as well. It's, Jurassic Park 2 is a terrible movie. This is better than Jurassic Park 2.
Although that one scene, the scene where the Jeep is hanging off of the cliff, amazing. That's the best scene in that movie.
Sure, there's good moments, but it's undercut by like everything else in that film.
We also get a Shadow Proclamation reference in this episode, which takes 4 years to pay off, and it's not even a disappointing reveal when it does pay off. It's a shitty idea. I don't give a shit about the Shadow Proclamation just being a woman and a future Dune in the hallway. But hey, the fact that it wasn't built up to be this big mystery means I'm not let down like I was with Ruby's mum, you know? Like, the fact that it wasn't a big mystery dropped in every single episode. And every character being like, I wonder what the Shadow Proclamation is.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think works better as like almost like a recurring gag in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Where it's like just something people say that doesn't necessarily need to have a payoff. You know, where it's like, what is the Shadow Proclamation? It's like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's just sci-fi jargon, you know? But Doctor Who has an incessant need that everything must be answered and have a lore reason, despite the concept of the show. You know?
Oh god. Remember when we found out that Sutek was clinging on to the TARDIS this entire time? Sutek is in this episode.
Sutek's in this episode, yeah. It's best not to think about it.
Imagine if this was written in 2023. Sutek would only reveal himself because the mystery of Rose's dad dying just stunned him so much. He really wanted to know what was going on.
But all of these things happen. Rose fights off the Autons, and they end up saving the day accidentally because the anti-plastic just falls into the nesting consciousness, and the Doctor's like, "Well, I guess you're dead. Oh well." And they move on. Jackie tries to phone Rose to have like, "Hey, the outside world is chaos right now. Please be safe." Rose doesn't say a single word to her, laughs, and hangs up. Yep. It's that's her last conversation that she will have with her for a long time.
Mm-hmm. This is... So, Jackie just came from the police station to file a report about Rose's work being blown up. She's going to be back at that police station tomorrow morning to report the fact that her child just went missing. Like, in the next episode, we do get Jackie, and it's the scene where Rose is calling Jackie, but Russell T Davies has said that scene takes place before the events of Rose, I believe. So
Interesting.
she has no. This is the last time she has communication with her daughter for an entire year. She thinks Mickey Smith killed Rose Tyler. Like,
Yeah.
it's dark.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. It's pretty messed up for sure. And Rose doesn't care. To be fair, though, Rose is 19. She's like a dumb teenager, you know?
Yeah. By the way, there's a cut line here where Rose says this to Mickey. Bigger on the inside. That's what he promised me on our first date. That was a cut line. Which
Bigger
I'm glad
on
they
the
didn't.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. But I'm glad they fucking cut out the line, which I'm presumably is about Mickey's large penis.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's vaguely implying, but it doesn't make any sense. Bigger on the inside, that's what you promised me on our first date. Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad it was cut out for.
Yeah, but important note here, of course, is the Doctor offers Rose a trip in the TARDIS, which Rose rejects, first of all, because she doesn't want to travel through space with this guy. But the Doctor fucks off, comes back, and says, hey, it travels in time, and that's the hook that gets Rose in, and that's obviously a big setup for Father's Day and the arc that Rose is going to go on in Series 1.
And also between that time is the entirety of
Big
Christopher
Finish.
Eccleston's Big Finish series up until this point.
Yes. And now we're in like a between episodes sort of thing with this new series somewhere.
I believe the new series with Nine and Rose Tyler takes place after Father's Day, which is nice because that's, Father's Day is like for big emotional arc kind of episodes. There's a lot of character development that we can explore with. I'm looking forward to it. I'll probably buy it, maybe.
We'll get around to it. But that is pretty much the end of Rose, an episode that I think has been pretty spectacular. I think it's been very good revisiting it as well with the 2025 vision that we didn't have before and being able to compare it and contrast it to where Doctor Who is now. I mean, when we last covered it, it was before Flux. It was It was a very long time ago, Like Doctor Who has changed.
We were different people.
Doctor Who has changed fundamentally since then.
I've got a question for you. You just watched it with a new fan. Did she enjoy it? Was she invested fully?
Yes. She has seen bits and pieces of Series 1. She hasn't seen all of Series 1, but she's seen, like, episodes here and there. So she had seen Rose before. But she enjoyed it. She thoroughly enjoyed it. She hadn't... What I brought up, The Unquiet Dead. She hadn't seen The Unquiet Dead before.
Okay.
And there was a comment she made, like, partway through the episode of... this is actually quite scary. I was like, yes, this is why Doctor Who is good. Is why it's just scary. But yeah, no, she's enjoying Series 1 again. It's she's the classic sort of I like Doctor Who when David Tennant was the Doctor type of Doctor Who fan. So I look forward to proving her wrong.
I'm sure Flux will be a good experience if you ever get to that.
Oh my god.
Maybe you've given up by that point.
I can't wait to watch it for like a 5th time.
But yeah, Rose, fucking fantastic. There's a lot wrong with it, like the whole Mickey stuff, being an Auton, but I can ignore that fucking easily because the rest of the episode is just so phenomenal. Like, you immediately feel a connection between Rose and the Doctor. And we're able, even in this episode, we're able to explore different elements of their relationship.
Yeah.
It's fucking outstanding, and I wish Doctor Who had this level of writing. It's a shame. I was so excited for Russell T Davies to come back, and he's let us down so far. Hopefully Series 2 is good.
Yeah, we'll see what Series 2 brings. I'm optimistic. I'm not ecstatic. This is, I think, the
Yeah.
first time in a long time I've not been very excited for a new Doctor Who. You know, I tend to be sucked in and hyped up by the prospect of New Who. This is the first time in a long time I've not really felt anything going into a
Yeah.
new series.
Oh, bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I know. I can barely believe it's on in 2 days. I used to get so excited every time Doctor Who came back, and now I think I'm more cause on Saturday, the day the new series premieres. I'm going to my mum's just to have a movie night. We're going to watch The Long Game. I think I'm more excited to watch The Long Game again than I am to watch this new season on Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I'll definitely watch the new series. I can't wait. I like new Doctor Who's always good, but
Yeah.
it's a weird.
it-
I'm really I'm very curious about the viewing numbers, because this is, I think, like my wider friend group. No one is talking about Doctor Who.
Yeah.
No one. You know.
And also, it feels like it's a bad time for new Doctor Who to drop because Star Wars Andor is about to come out. And when you're sharing the same service as Star Wars Andor, which is really fucking excellent TV, I need to watch season 1 again. And also, it's 3 episodes a week for Andor, which means if people have 2.5 hours to spare, they're going to be watching Andor over Doctor Who, I reckon.
And
So,
Andor is good.
yes.
Which Doctor Who is not.
We'll see what this new season is like. So I'm presuming we're already 2 episodes into it, I imagine, or 1 or 2 episodes.
One
into
or two
it.
episodes in, yeah.
So if you're curious about our views of season 2, check us out. Subscribe to us, ring the bell, leave a comment down below. What's your favorite part about Rose? What's your feelings about season 2 so far? I'm very curious.
Yeah. Does it hold up? Does it compare? Is this the peak of the show? But that is all we have got for Rose. We will be back in previous weeks covering Series 2, as Scott said. That's what we're going to be doing as Series 2 runs into the course of May. We will be covering the new series of Doctor Who. Perhaps there will be some format changes happening on the show by then as well. Ooh. Who really knows? Because my life, much like Doctor Who, is in flux at the minute. And there's some big changes coming and happening, and everything's kind of slow and fast at the same time. But once everything happens, if everything happens the way I want it to happen, it should allow us to change the show in a pretty fundamental way. So make sure you're subscribed to kind of see when that happens, which should maybe be in the next month or so. That'd be pretty cool. And we will see you then as we go into Ncuti Gatwa's new era. Series 2 is his second series. His last series? Lots of rumors he's leaving.
Yeah.
Lots of rumors he's leaving.
I'm very curious.
Yeah, we'll see.
There's leaks everywhere. This year I've decided I'm not looking at any leaks because I spoiled myself. The last time I kind of knew Sutek was coming on board. I kind of knew Ncuti Gatwa would hit the TARDIS with Mallet. We discussed that on the show before it happened.
Yeah.
I don't want to be spoiled. I want to be surprised and see how shitty the twist is firsthand.
Yeah. So we'll see what it brings. I'm very curious, and we're days away. We're days away at the time of recording. So let's see what it brings. Until then, bye.
Bye.